And it wasn't like I didn't give him numerous warnings.
There we go.
I think Smoky Saint is in the room. I hope you block him, Darth.
Enemy spotted.
Yeah, Smoky Saint, can you please explain to me how Cornelius Van Til was a degenerate? Because you published.
Hey, Jeff, I can't.
Publicly called him a degenerate. You called me a degenerate. How am I a degenerate? See, no answer.
They might.
He's too afraid. I mean,
Yeah,
I like.
this is the kind. No, I don't like him. Okay, because he's
No, not
unhinged.
Smoky.
Yeah, I'm still waiting, Smoky Saint. You categorically and boldly asserted that Cornelius Van Til.
Let's see. All right, folks, can you hear me now? All right, it looks like I can actually see the thing going through there. Let's see. If anybody can hear me now, just give a thumbs up in the. Okay, it's going through. Yeah, I've got a short going on with this thing. I'll have to be careful with the cable on this. It'll go out, and then when I try to unmute myself, it's not the mic itself is not responding. So anyway, boring technical issue. I'll restart this anyway because I did start with some descriptions on this. Let's see, Jay, if you want to come back in, go ahead. You should be able to hear now.
Okay.
So okay. All right, sorry about that, folks. Anyway, what I was saying is Darth and Smokey have a history about this. Darth is a fan of Cornelius Van Til. Smokey has called Cornelius Van Til a degenerate. Darth Dawkins will not let this go. Really, really wants to stomp this out of Smokey. Smokey is the type of person who also likes to stomp incorrect things out of other Christians. So you can probably tell this isn't going to go anywhere. It's kind of like a tractor pull. So.
Was
I know,
a degenerate.
can we not do that right now?
No, you made a public accusation against a very famous,
Why is it
widely
always about
liked
this
and beloved theologian, and I would like to know on what basis you asserted. You said that I was a degenerate, and you said that Cornelius Van Til was a degenerate. I'd like you to explain whether you were being rational or not.
Sure, I'll give my 3 points. That's fine. So Cornelius Van Til had a tendency to communicate in a very, I guess you would say, disingenuous way by changing philosophical definitions, which made his teachings to be.
Where did you get that from? Where did you get that from?
Well, there's a lot of his critics.
What critics? What critics? Listen, let's have a conversation here. Let's have a conversation here.
I like how Darth is at twice the volume that anyone else seems to be.
Well, isn't there that function in Discord? Like if you press a certain key, you will come over louder than anyone else if you own the channel or you own the server.
I think so. I've heard of that, but I don't know. I don't get in there and interact that much, and I don't have my own server, so I don't know if those controls are there. But yeah. I mean that sounds like something they would have, but
because it's something that you can also give to others. When you set up your server, you can actually give it to your mods and stuff so that they have it depending on their role on your server. But either way, what exactly? So a little context here. what exactly is the dispute between this disagreement about Van Til between the two of them, or do we find that out later?
This started a while ago because the two of them have fought with each other before. In fact, there is before Rebuke and Reprove got his previous channel, Jesus is Lord, yeeted by YouTube. I think that was one of the first times that I saw the two of them interact, and they kind of went head to head there. And I think that was the first time. That might have been the first time that Smokey told Darth Dawkins that he thought Cornelius Van Til was a degenerate, or he just reminded him of it again because the two of them had words on a Discord channel sometime before. They both have friends in low places, so that it's that they've circled the same drain plenty of times. So
he walked up and smacked. He's basically walking up and smacking Darth across the face with that.
Yeah, he wants
to maybe
Darth, whatever they were talking about before. Darth wants to pick a fight with him now that he's in there. And he's challenging him, like, how dare you call my Lord and Savior Cornelius Van Til a degenerate? And it's like, and Smokey even kind of admits, like, he uses this hyperbolic language, which is, he doesn't admit to it, but it's completely fucking irresponsible. It's like he admits that Cornelius Van Til was a Christian, believed in God, probably a great guy. Like, okay, then maybe don't call him a fucking degenerate. Maybe just say that he's got a bad apologetic, or his some of his theology was a little whacked out of shape.
Well, what you do is you start out extreme and then you pull it back, right? So, you just start bringing it back a little bit, but you always go more,
Yeah, exactly.
Never go just in increments. Just start out, go in on the hog, right? Just, get in there, and then when somebody says, "Well, wait a minute," then you can just start dialing your shit back.
Yeah,
that's how I do it. That's how everybody should do it, especially electricians. Give that shit as much voltage as you can and dial it back.
What I do is I run a massive surge through all of your outlets, and then that wipes everything out. And then I go through and replace everything. I call it the clean slate protocol.
The process is done when all the outlets pop out the wall.
Is this why you charge 4 times more than any other electrician in the area? Absolutely, but it's the most comprehensive repair you'll ever get. Like, I just needed you to replace one outlet. Yeah, well, now all of them are brand new because all the old ones are dead. Anyway, before we get into too much of a bit there, thanks, Scott Duke. I should change my last name to Spatchcock because a lot of the Christians do not like the fact that I've named myself Spatchcock for apparently tongue-in-cheek reasons. Tongue-in-cheek is appropriate for Darth Dawkins, but not for atheists who put words like cock, dick, and Richard in their names, or whatever else. But you can call yourself Tone Loc. The man that gave us the song Funky Cold Medina, from a guy, he calls himself either Tone Loc or the 37-year-old virgin, and proud of it.
and let's not forget the Wild Thing.
And the remake of Wild Thing. So different strokes.
And a 1 and a 911.
Let's have a conversation here. Let's not you go unhinged like you have before. Now, I'm familiar with a number of
Darth telling somebody to not go unhinged is always precious.
Cornelius Van Til's more prominent critics, okay, like R.C. Sproul, John Warwick Montgomery. Okay, can you cite any of them by name who said that he was himself being disingenuous by using certain terminology? So, for example, Cornelius Van Til referred to God as the concrete universal. It's terminology that was used within idealism. But Cornelius Van Til explained what he meant by that. So how is Cornelius Van Til a degenerate because he uses terminology or certain labeling, and then he explains what he means by that? How does that make him a degenerate?
Well, no, he rewrote terminology. So, like, he kind of recreated his own definition.
How does that make him a degenerate? I've read several biographies of Cornelius.
He's going to hold him to that, isn't he?
And even people who were some of his strongest critics. No one even suggested that in any way or in any sense he was a degenerate. Everyone that knew him, even people who disagree with him, considered that he was a godly man. Even Gordon Clark, okay, who he had a fallout with.
No, you can't be doing that, Darth. You can't be saying that. Smokey will tell you exactly who a godly man is and who a godly man isn't. Mm-hmm. You're already on the wrong foot there, pal.
Right. But Fortunately for Darth, he's not going to let Smokey say anything for this entire thing.
Really?
Said that he's a degenerate.
I mean, yeah, just watch as we get through this. Like the I don't know what the ratio is. It might be 90-10 in terms of like who's talking.
Wow.
Yeah, it's bad.
So I want to know. So far, you have failed. Okay, to demonstrate that he's a degenerate.
You won't let me finish my 3 points.
Go ahead.
3 points. That was just the first point.
Well, the first one was a fail. It was a concrete facial.
Terminology.
Doesn't make him a degenerate.
Okay. All right. Well, let me keep going.
So do you agree, before you go on, do you realize that was a major?
So yeah, I'm not going to let you actually get to your other point until you realize that I heard your first point and I told you that you're wrong, and now you better admit to me that you're wrong. Are we on the same page? That do we both agree that you were wrong? Like, well, you didn't actually have any kind of discussion or exchange of ideas, so no, Darth, I'm pretty sure he's not going to just agree to that just because you said it. You ding dong. Do you know what the best ice cream is? The best ice cream is vanilla. Anything else is decadent, degenerate trash. Do we agree that the only appropriate ice cream is vanilla? I think we do. Anything else that you brought up not concrete, Rocky Road, that's a concrete facial. You stepped right on all the garden rakes right there. Oh, I can't believe it. Like, fucking Darth.
Yeah, don't fuck with my chocolate therapy. That's all I got to fucking say. Ben and Jerry's chocolate therapy is goddamn good ice cream. Don't fuck with
that. Is pretty good. I miss the speculoos one, or speculoos, whatever. The or what we call like the airline cookie, the cookie dough ice cream. Oh, that was good. I think they got rid of it.
Oh, I had that. Yeah, that one used to be pretty addictive.
It was tasty. Lots of cinnamon. Anyway, sorry, folks.
Your fail.
Yep.
No, not really.
Okay, so using certain terms and then redefining them in a Christian theological sense does not make does not necessitate one as a degenerate, does it?
Not necessarily.
Not by itself, no.
Good. So you have failed in your first point.
I have other points, Darth. That was just
okay. Did you fail? Did you fail? Okay. I don't want anyone who is going to talk except for Smokey Saint. You're going to get server muted. Now,
keep in point.
Either you failed in your first point or you didn't. Which is it?
I didn't, because it's only the first point.
Explain. No, listen to me carefully. Does him using a couple of terms?
Pause for a second.
Sorry, Bill Pasta just brought up chocolate ganache. Man, I was kind of craving. I don't usually crave ice cream, but I want it now.
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead.
Okay. You remember how you always get remember when you get on Praise's channel, it was always about winning the argument, dunking on, got to win. I've destroyed so many atheists in their conversations and shit. I'm glad to see that's happening to Smokey right now. Not saying that Smokey is of that position, like what Praise has done on his channel and SFT. Yeah, we destroyed those atheists in this conversation and that debate, blah, blah, blah. That's what this conversation is.
Yeah.
Darth is just trying to win. It's not about having a conversation. It's about winning and showing Smokey as being wrong.
And the sad thing is that Smokey is not going to I've seen Smokey's reaction video to this since then. I watched it earlier today, and I haven't seen anything that resembles anything like reflection on that technique. Just anger that Darth Dawkins is so stupid. Right?
Yeah.
But there's no reflection like, hey, maybe engaging in this kind of like hyperbole and vitriolic rhetoric isn't great for fostering any kind of like discussion or an exchange of ideas. Like, no, Darth Dawkins is he's a galaxy brained weirdo and a degenerate and a heretic, and I mean, basically,
I'm gonna have to watch that one. Get a chuckle out of that.
He doesn't go off. He goes. Does he go off on a tangent on that one or somebody else? I can't remember. He goes off a little bit. Maybe it's LPP, but he starts yelling about somebody in that one. Kind of gets a little turned up, and then Tom Rabbittt actually has a video where Otangelo reads a part of the email that was sent to him by Smokey, where Smokey is just calling him a heretic and a degenerate and a liar, and he's calling him everything about a Brazilian man. Like, so here we go.
And redefining it with biblical theology, how does that make him a degenerate?
Because misusing philosophical terms and then posturing.
Who says he's misusing them? Where'd you get that from?
Well, it's the exact reason why people like you, Darth, have such a hard time sifting out the deeper nuances of philosophy.
Do you have an example? Do you have an example where he misuses terminology?
Well, I did a video on.
Have you read any of his books?
I'm in here to talk about
Could you tell me?
See, this is why this kind of thing is terrible for somebody like Darth Dawkins, because it's kind of strange. Like if he's got this thing turned up, like when everybody's like talking, like for anybody that's listening from the outside, it's clear that Darth Dawkins is louder than whoever he's talking to, right? But for the person usually listening, they can't tell that difference. So when they're trying to get a point across, nothing's getting through. And then he'll have the, then he'll don't overtalk me. Like there's no possible way they can overtalk you. You've got the setting set for bulldoze, but he still gets triggered about that. So anyway, here we go. Are
there any of his books that you have read?
Yes, Darth. Yes, we've been over this.
What books of his have you? What books of it? Listen to me. You're failing. You are failing me. You are not. Listen to me. You are not speaking to me. You are talking past me. What specific books of Van Til have you read?
Projection.
You know what, Darth? I don't recall because it's been a hot minute.
Oh, so you haven't read any of his books. So could you?
So it follows that because he can't remember a title, he hasn't read them at all. Way to go, Darth Dawkins. Should you be bearing this level of false witness against your brother? Shouldn't you be erring on the side of like being charitable with this person? They are supposedly another Christian. Maybe don't automatically leap to the assumption that Smokey is lying to you. Now, if Smokey is lying to you, well, same thing applies to him. He shouldn't be misrepresenting himself to a fellow brother in Christ.
No, what I'm doing is I'm waiting for someone to kind of do the same thing. Go, yes, I read this book, this book, this book. Well, then you fucking understood.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you're illiterate.
Yeah, I'm like,
okay.
How old are you? I'm 61. Well, you act like a teenager. Like, okay, what did you ask me? What did you ask me? Did you just ask me that so you could say that? Like, yeah. Like what's wrong with you? Just if you want to say that I'm being juvenile, just accuse me of being juvenile. Don't ask me the question so you can set it up. This isn't a bit. Fuck.
Oh, this very much sounds like a bit.
Which of Van Til? Okay, please don't overtalk me. Please, what you're beginning to go into a meltdown like the last time we had an encounter together. Now, could you tell me which of Van Til's?
So this is bad. Darth Dawkins he can't even spot the Smokey Saint meltdown. That's not Smokey Saint getting ready for a meltdown. That's Smokey Saint being incredulous. Like I'm trying to answer your questions, and you will not stop babbling.
Yeah,
a critic by name who cites that he did this reprehensible act that would be deserving of calling him a degenerate. Who is that critic?
Darth, again, I have it in that video. I didn't come in here to discuss this, so I didn't bring my sources.
Who did you read that cited he so grossly abused and misused certain terminology? So you don't have an answer, do you?
I'm not going to do this here. I came in here to answer your question about Netflix.
Yeah, you're not answering. See, this is what you did last time. You're going.
So he doesn't care. Smokey actually just mentioned that he came in there to get into the discussion. I think this was at the same time that the things were going on with Nephilim, which is the second video that I've got on here. Because Darth Dawkins had torn a Nephilim over something stupid like Christian. It's soul sleep. I had to look it up because I've heard of it before, but it's more like an SDA thing, Seventh-day Adventist kind of thing. It's a Christian mortalism. So he and Nephilim went after each other on that for a little bit, and Nephilim and Smokey don't agree on a lot of stuff like that. I think because Nephilim might be Seventh-day Adventist or still holds to some of their stuff. Anyway,
going into a mini meltdown. Now, do you have a name? Okay, you said his critics. Which, okay, please don't overtalk me. I don't want to have to server meet you. Maybe that's...
He can't overtalk you. He can just talk in the background, you silly old fuck.
That's what you want. So then you can claim that you were shut down, right? Now, what critic by name has cited this egregious act of Van Til abusing or deceitfully using certain terminology?
I didn't commit the name to memory.
Oh, so you don't know? You have no idea where you got it from?
Sure, I didn't bring my sources.
Okay, so what specific terminology that you could cite for us would indicate absolute dishonesty? What could you tell us? What terminology?
Video. Let's go with that.
I'm waiting for you to tell me what terminology that did Cornelius Van Til so vastly abused that he would be deserving of
I believe, if memory serves, one of the things.
So Darth Dawkins is on the internet all the time, and at this point, he's literally asking kind of a trick question, and I don't know why Smokey didn't do this. I'm not sure why, but if Darth ends up making the claim that Smokey is being irrational, there actually is a little something to that, because all Smokey would have to do is let Darth talk, go to the Google machine, type in Cornelius Van Til criticism, and he would find this excerpt from tabletalkmagazine.com from August 21st of 2019, which is what Smokey cited beforehand. And I know because I watched the video response that he did after this, and he cites this. So the critic that he's bringing up, he'd already mentioned R.C. Sproul, who's a famous Reformed apologist, who was a friendly critic of Van Til. But the author of this particular article is Keith Matheson. I think that's his name. Keith Matheson. I was just going to scroll down here. It's quite extensive. And in it, he also has different people that he mentions who are critical of Van Til. And he has how many? Now, I'm not going to actually go through all of these, and some of these are Van Til himself, but there are 242 notes. Dr. Keith Matheson is a professor of systematic theology at Reformation Bible College in Sanford, Florida. And he has extensive notes and quotes from other critics of Van Til. They're all right there in one article. So I'm not exactly sure why Smokey didn't just kind of lay in the cut. Darth runs his business, and then you just jump on here and didn't just start lobbing names at him. Because I'm almost certain that he wouldn't have known who these people were, which would have done two things. And maybe you disagree with me, Jay, but he'd have to say, I don't know who that is, so it doesn't matter. Or once Smokey names them, he would just move on to saying they're wrong.
Things was the philosophical concept of essence. I believe that was one of the philosophical terminologies that he perverted. And again, I'd have to go.
Well, no, there are different. No, it's not perverted because there is not a monolith of view on the term essence. There's a spectrum of understanding it. Now, so you failed on the first charge to say that he was a degenerate.
Philosophical definition of essence.
Okay.
Is that what you're saying?
Okay. Listen to me. Is there a monolith of the definition of essence?
There is a philosophical definition of it. Yes.
Is there a mono? Okay. And so where did Cornelius Van Til misuse it? Could you what work?
Well, Darth, again, did it in a video.
I have on my computer right now. Okay, I have almost all of Cornelius Van Til's books, almost all of them. So in which book?
In defending the faith, did he say that this is nuclear strength apologetics and that this replaces all evidentiary apologetics?
Okay, so you're changing the subject?
No, I'm trying to point out again. Your whole
how does saying it is okay? Listen to me. Talking fast is just making you look bad. How is that? If Van Til said nuclear strength, how does that show that he's abusing some term of essence?
Again, Darth, I don't have all of these references in front of me. I know you worship them, but I don't.
I don't worship him. I have a deep appreciation for his brilliance, and in fact, I disagree. Hold on a second.
Sounds like he's worshiping him.
You made another false accusation, which you are prone to do. I do not worship. Okay, hold on a second. Shut up, or you're going to be temporarily server muted. You made another false accusation. You falsely accused him of being a degenerate. You accused me of being a degenerate. Now you accuse me of worshiping him. Okay, Cornelius Van Til is a staunch Calvinist. I am not a staunch Calvinist. Now, there are other people in here who have heard me talk about Cornelius Van Til, quite a bit. Tonlock, did you ever get the impression in all the conversations that you have listened to that I idolized or worshipped Cornelius Van Til?
No, sir, never.
Anyone else in here who's a regular, who's heard me invoke from time to time what appreciation I do have for Van Til, the theologian and philosopher, I have never. You are the only person that I've ever encountered who has accused me of worshiping Cornelius Van Til. What do you base that accusation on? Okay, listen carefully. Listen carefully. I will shut up momentarily. What
Not
evidence
for long.
do you have that I worship Cornelius Van Til?
Well, this right now is a pretty good example because I can't show up without you
This
demanding.
is a total Hindenburg disaster for you. Me calling you on the carpet for your egregious accusation of calling a what has been widely known by everyone who knew him, even his critics, considered him an immensely impeccable and godly man. Okay?
But the fact that impeccable means blameless. Does Darth really believe there are blameless Christians out there? I think that's kind of a crazy thing to say. And the idea that he's godly, that's not really the point. Right. If the issue here is like you're dealing with somebody like Smokey, who has obviously exaggerated the claim that he believes this guy's theology, his explanations, his apologetic are not good, not sound. But he does admit that he doesn't think that Van Til is a bad person, just that his philosophy is quote unquote degenerate. I mean, Smokey gets into this trouble for using language like this. So I don't really have any sympathy for this, but Darth Dawkins is willingly following along with us. He just kind of took the hook on it.
Even Gordon Clark, in my biased opinion, would vehemently disagree with you that he was a degenerate. So you have no basis. Okay, so your first charge.
I'm pretty sure Gordon Clark and a lot of other Christians would also object to the way you behave and the way you treat other Christians, Darth Dawkins. So you might want to be careful about that whole beam in the other person's eye and mote in your own kind of, mote in their eye, beam in your eye, however that works.
Fell onto the concrete, okay? That he misused terms. Do you have any other line of reasoning? Because that reasoning didn't hold water. What's your second line of reasoning that he was a degenerate?
I'll just leave it alone because you're not going to listen to it.
No, I'm listening right now. What is your second charge that he's a degenerate?
And that Cornelius Van Til is a complete degenerate because his critics admit the fact that he misuses philosophical terms.
We've already discussed that, and you failed. You failed to substantiate that. Do you have any second line of reasoning? Do you have any other second line of reasoning? You said there was more. The first line of reasoning, you failed miserably. Do you have a second line of reasoning that Cornelius Van Til was a degenerate?
Sure, he presents the idea that this method is better than every apologetic method that's ever been created and replaces all of them.
No, that's simply false. Did I send you a copy? Okay. Did I send you a copy of the book? Hold on a second.
Greg Navarro, yes, I did, and I read it. And he was trying very.
I didn't hear what you said.
Yes, I read the book by Greg Navarro that you sent me, and I did.
Really? Did you? Because his name is not Greg Navarro.
Okay, well, something Navarro. I forgot. I guess I forgot.
No. His name is Tom Notaro.
Smokey. Navarro, Notaro. Did you really expect Darth Dawkins to understand that little bit of a slip up? And Greg? From Tom to Greg. You should be ashamed of yourself. That's the kind of mistake one of us atheists would make.
Oh, Notaro. Okay, all right.
Yeah. Oh, so you read it. Now, if you read that book, what you would find out is Van Til is not opposed whatsoever to the use of evidences. Now, Greg Bonson has commented on this, and in the book, Notaro points out that Van Til fully support the use of historical evidences in defense of the faith.
Where?
Insofar, let me finish. I am telling you, I have read Van Til's books. Greg Bonson has made the same statement I'm about to give you. Notaro says the same thing in his book. He is fully supportive of presenting evidences, historical evidences to support the Christian faith, as long as they do not cater to an unbeliever's false belief or allow the unbeliever to think that they're operating under autonomous reasoning. So when you said that Van Til was guilty of misrepresenting certain philosophical terms, you are guilty of misrepresenting Van Til's view on evidentiary support for the faith.
I haven't wanted to become a Van Til expert or spend all of my time researching Van Til.
But you're an expert enough to call him a degenerate.
Yeah, no, I've seen enough to believe he's.
Do you have to? I mean, not that this is a fair comparison, but do you have to study? Do you really have to get into the details of, say, Jeffrey Dahmer's life or Ted Bundy's life to be able to draw a conclusion that, he is a serial killer and a sicko? Like, Like I kind of wonder, like, at what point, Darth, does somebody how much does somebody have to study a person and their like, you have to master their entire life's work before you can make a claim that you didn't think they were right or wrong? I mean, Darth Dawkins is the kind of guy, and he's one of these anti-evolution types where he will take a shit on scientists that claim this kind of stuff, or disregard the hard work of somebody with a PhD in philosophy or a PhD in physical sciences. But Smokey Saint can't draw a conclusion about what he understands as being Van Til's his apologetic. It's bonkers.
He's a degenerate apologist. Yeah, that I believe.
How is he? Yeah, and how is he a degenerate? How is he a degenerate?
Okay. Do you admit that he did kind of fudge philosophical terms, or no? Like a lot of his critics.
No, Darth's. Well, who knows? I mean, Darth might be a serial killer. No. I'm not going to do that. No, I was making an unfair comparison. I wasn't trying to compare Van Til with a serial killer. I was just trying to say, like, you don't have to know somebody's entire life in order to be able to get be able to make a correct assumption or a correct assessment of an aspect of their life. And Darth Dawkins, clearly it operates that way because he has no issues tossing aside, and he can talk to PhD candidates and call them idiots, and he has absolutely no respect for the work that they've done in their particular, for their degree or in their field. But he expects Smokey Saint to have read I guess every single thing that Van Til's ever written, and multiple biographies about Van Til before he can make any kind of judgments on him. Because if Smokey's saying that, if Darth Dawkins' only problem is that Smokey Saint is using hyperbolic language, he should stick to that point. But this is just, Darth Dawkins is literally going overboard in just a different way that Smokey Saint is. This is quite sad.
Kind of unanimous.
No, many of these people were not careful readers. Okay, and because Cornelius Van Til, listen carefully. Listen to me carefully. Listen to me carefully.
Hang on, Otangelo, are you thick? No, it's not the problem. Isn't with Darth Dawkins' opinion. The problem is Darth Dawkins is literally challenging Smokey Saint's opinion on this, and it basically seems to be holding him to the standard that he can't disagree with this kind of thing. That with the Van Til apologetic, unless he's apparently read everything that Van Til has written and read multiple biographies on him, then he can make maybe a fair assessment of him. That doesn't make any sense.
You've read squat diddly from primary sources about Van Til. I have read primary sources. Even one of his best students, okay, Greg Bonson and John Frame have pointed out that English was not his first language, okay? And he wasn't always clear about certain things. However, he would always explain these terms, like, for example, when he said concrete universal, okay? Now, the fact of the matter is, what is the issue at hand? The issue at hand is you are accusing this man who, by all accounts of everyone who knew him, was a godly man. You are indicting him as a degenerate. You haven't provided one iota of support that he was a degenerate. So your first line of reasoning was a fail. What's your second line of reasoning that he was a degenerate?
So you kind of admitted that it was a second language. So
okay, Smokey Saint, we're not going to rehash your first line of reasoning because that was a fail. Now you said you had.
See you later, Bill. I understand. I didn't realize that Delonte was going to be on, but yeah.
Multiple lines of reasoning that he was a degenerate. What is your second line of reasoning that he was a degenerate?
I already gave it to you. It was the idea that this is the end all be all apologetics. And
that what he's saying is we have to start. No, you are misrepresenting. Is it degeneracy to say that we have to start with the revelation of God versus catering or accepting the autonomous reason of man? Because I just gave you a true dichotomy.
Yeah, Darth, I think I had a conversation. You know what? Whatever I say, you're going to disagree with. And
I asked you a question, sir.
Yeah, I know, Darth, but the thing is, I didn't even come here to talk about this.
I don't care what you came for. I'm holding you accountable for your public accusations. Okay.
Was an apologist and a philosopher. And
he said that our foundational principle must be to start with the revelation of God rather than start with the proclaimed autonomy of the human mind. Now,
which doesn't make any sense. Smokey gets into making this point a little bit in his own video in response to this, but it doesn't really make any sense that, like, you would appeal you kind of have to appeal to the autonomy of the human mind in order to justify the idea that we can disobey God.
Hey Jeff, am I coming through okay now?
Yeah, you're clear. Are you getting a lag?
Okay, cool. No. I was just trying to make sure I had time to. Yeah. Anyway, StreamYard's
All right.
StreamYard is retarded with earbuds, by the way. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, if I'm hooked up with mine and somebody sends me a text or something like that, basically kicks me out of the stream. So.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Listen carefully to what I'm saying. Listen carefully to what I'm saying.
Were you gonna say something?
Oh, I don't think I've really missed anything. I think they're just still. I think Darth is still basically just talking a lot and trying to get Smokey to justify his opinion that Van Til is still a degenerate, and they haven't gotten anything.
Yeah, they're wasting an enormous amount of time because Darth is just extremely triggered over the fact that his hero is being besmirched by Smokey, saying somebody he doesn't know and I'm guessing doesn't care about. But apparently, this needs to be stomped out right now. But they at no point are they going to actually talk about what the real issue is here, which is this issue, right? Like you have to presuppose revelation and not the autonomous nature of your reasoning. So like if autonomous reasoning is some kind of like myth, right? Are we simply being influenced in one way or the other? Like if we're doing good, the Holy Spirit is influencing us to do good, and if we're doing evil, we're being influenced in that way to do bad. And it's just a series of influences that are pushing us back and forth. So in a way, we're like spiritual jellyfish. That seems to be the approach we need to take when it comes to God. Don't rely on your autonomous reasoning. That's just going to get you into trouble. You need to realize that you're creaturely. You're a creature of God, right? The appropriate position is, on your knees. Well, and just being as a servile cur to your Lord and Master. Just do whatever it tells you. Don't question. Don't use your own thinking. Don't use your own reasoning. And here are the reasons 1 through 5, why you should accept this. Like what the fuck?
And exactly how does Smokey and if that's the core. What exactly is it that Smokey disagrees with when it comes to Van Til? Because I didn't hear his 3 points. Did he ever get to his 3 points?
Yeah, no, he hasn't made it to the third because Darth won't let him. The first point was that Van Til has he's either kind of changed or uses his own idiosyncratic definitions for certain philosophical terms that he kind of throws in there, so they're unique to him, or he's mischaracterizing those words, or they're poorly defined. Second one was that it was boasted that the presuppositional apologetic was like the nuclear option of apologetics. And this hits home for Darth Dawkins because Darth Dawkins believes that it is the biblical approach. And when he says biblical, that means the one and only. It is the single only approach one should take, first and foremost. Like you can get into things like evidences and shit like that, but that's just second or third tier bullshit.
So Smokey doesn't like precept, even though Smokey precepts?
Smokey doesn't exactly precept. Smokey thinks that people are stupid because they don't conclude God from things he thinks are convincing evidence. What he doesn't agree with is the kind of claims that Darth is making, where Darth is like, you have to presuppose revelation and question your rationality, and now listen to the reasons why you should do that. Let me appeal to your rationality. Smokey, and I agree with him, justifiably finds that baldly contradictory, because it fucking is. It's an insane thing to say to somebody. You can't trust your reason. Your autonomous reasoning will simply get you into trouble. Now let's reason together, and let me give you rational reasons why you should accept this scheme and then make the correct choice and follow it. That doesn't make any sense.
Yep, I got you.
And that's been a common confusion amongst people who follow Van Til. And there's lots of people who will duck and dive and weave around that kind of thing, trying to salvage the precept apologetic from in favor of Van Til's legacy. And then there's other people like R.C. Sproul and stuff who basically are just like, no, there's lots of problems with this. It doesn't hold up. It doesn't work. So, what?
Without getting into that, what's the difference between Van Til and Bonson's approach?
Bonson basically weaponized it. Bonson's really the one that kind of turned it into the thing where it's like, no, you can just shut somebody up. Because basically what you can do is Van Til's position was more like Christians need to start they need to presuppose the revelation of God in order to secure themselves within their worldview. But Van Til also got into a little bit of this kind of nonsense where, if you don't assume the Christian worldview, nothing makes sense, or you can't hold the facts, or you can't assert anything to be true, all this other bullshit. Bonson took that and weaponized it. And so when Van Til will kind of entertain the notion that there's a Christian worldview and then there are other worldviews, Bonson really got into the idea where, like, no, there aren't. There's only one worldview. And Christians and everyone borrows from the Christian one. Only one worldview can be true. Which is kind of weird because all worldviews can be false.
Yeah.
They can be incomplete and in many and they can be more or less false depending on what
that gets back to that kind of gets back to what we discussed one time, like your worldview makes something true when it doesn't have to be. Things being true are not necessarily contingent on your worldview, right?
Yeah.
Do you disagree with the idea that we must start with the revelation of God rather than the autonomous reason of man?
See, there it is.
No, I disagree with that.
Okay, good. So guess what? So now you are anti-biblical, because here's the problem. You can't invoke anything unless it's
this is hilarious.
Okay, so you believe that we can start with the autonomous reason of man and then reason outward, rather than when we have proximate starting points such as sense perception and our self-consciousness, that we recognize that this is revelatory.
There it goes. See?
So
Wait, but your senses have to be rationalized in order for you to realize something is relevant. What?
No, I told you this. This is what I told you, I think, a day or two ago. I said this on one of my last videos. He believes that subjective experience is equivalent to revelation. You don't have subjective experience and then from that conclude that the facts that you're experiencing and the world around you is an evidence of God. These effects are God made, and from those effects one can infer or conclude that a God made these things.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Augustinian kind of that's like the order of knowledge, order of being kind of thing. Precept throws that on its head, at least the way Darth Dawkins likes to handle it. No, that's why when he says, like, he won't explain what revelation is to people, he just explained it for everyone to hear. Subjective sense experience is revelation. So the thing to ask then is, okay, if the subjective experience, right, the fact that we are subjective agents is a presupposition. It is an unprovable assertion. It's that one thing that you and I, we can't deny it, because in denying it, we reaffirm it.
There's so many. I could probably think of this. I'll have to think. I'm not. It's not that I'm not getting it, but there are so many problems with that.
Yeah.
Than just that. Than what you're just saying.
But what he's doing is what Floyd FP has been accusing him of, and other people have nailed him on for years. He is taking an axiom like subjective experience, and he is grounding it in God. It's no longer axiomatic. He is inferring God from his subjective experience, and then he's asserting that God grounds that same subjective experience. That is revelation. That is so tightly circular that it basically explodes. That is a self-annihilating concept. You can't deny your self-experience without affirming your self-experience, that your own subjective agency. If you try to deny it or you call it into question or you start to look at it, you're actually engaging in it at the same. You're still doing it, right? That's why it's an unprovable. That's why it's considered axiomatic. You really can't escape it. How do you ground it in something? How do you solve for hard solipsism? Well, Darth is just like, well, no. The fact that sense, that subjective experience, your subjective agency is not your autonomous thinking. It is revelation from God. Okay. If those are one and the same thing, how am I to be blamed for anything that I do? Everything then it follows is revelation from God. So if I want to murder people for fun, that's like, at what point does my autonomous reasoning, quote unquote, kick in? So he has to answer two problems. Either autonomous reasoning does exist, but it exists despite revelation from God, or you have no autonomous reasoning. It's some kind of influence of sin where you have the illusion of autonomous reasoning, but it can supersede his revelation. So then you end up coming up to the real problem. And it's not simply like the Descartes demon thing. How do you know the difference between God and the devil when it's revelation? You don't have autonomous reasoning. You simply have impulses. One of these, he would have to get into one of those two things. And I don't know how he reconciles either one of them. And I don't know which one he favors. So I'm waiting to hear... I'm waiting to hear him get into this with other Christians. Maybe I'll hear him drop that little nugget. Like Dee disappears in a puff of logic.
No, more like that guy on the wizard that and the Holy Grail. You know, I can't remember. I'm not going to bother. I can't remember the line where he asked the riddles. What is the traveling of a particular swallow, of an unladen swallow? And he goes, African or European. He goes, I don't know. Ah!
Yeah. What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? Well, what do you mean, African or European? I don't know that. Yeah, their conversation is only slightly dorkier than that.
Sorry, it just made me. When somebody said he disappears in a puff of smoke, that's first thing that came to mind. Sorry, folks.
The position is
Otangela's talking about being moist for Jesus. Ugh. Anyway, I'm just going to play this.
Did he say moist? Did he use the word moist? Somebody time him out for using the word moist. No,
he used the term dampness. Darth and I have the dampness of Jesus.
Start with the autonomous reason of man.
I don't
front
think,
or back.
He has any other starting evidence for it.
Okay. So you are grotesquely unbiblical at this point, because autonomous reasoning means that whatever proximate starting point that we start with, such as sense perception and human consciousness, that we do not start that it is revelatory of God. So your human consciousness and sense perception, from your point of view, is not revelatory of God?
I guess.
Well, you've now contradicted yourself.
Well, Darth, I don't really understand your question sometimes either.
Well, you see, but you know what you don't understand?
See?
You see what you don't understand? What you did? You don't understand anything.
I did this. I said that I did the same thing that Smokey did. Why is it we get shit from Christians for asking what fucking Smokey just asked right there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I have done that with him on multiple occasions. Well, I've only had, I think, maybe 2 or 3 conversations with Darth Dawkins, and they didn't last long. The one that lasted the longest was on One Way's channel, and that was just because it was One Way's channel. So yeah, but I asked questions like that, and praise and Jill. See, they're so stupid. The atheists, they don't understand the question. And then you got Smokey right here going, I'm not really getting your question here. Fucking Christ. What a bunch of fucking wieners. Sorry, folks. These guys are just fucking stupid.
And I have to walk you through this like a first grader, because you don't understand Cornelius Van Til. You probably only read. Let me ask you this question: other than Dan Story's diatribe against Van Til, what other author?
See, he knows somebody, like Dan Story's diatribe against Van Til.
I'm just waiting for this conversation. Okay, anybody, if Peter, if you're listening, if you can put something together, put this together. This argument, and eventually gets to this point where this crescendo of this argument between Smokey Saint and Darth Dawkins, where Darth Dawkins says, "For fuck's sake, until you suck Cornelius Van Til's dick, you cannot say he's a degenerate."
Yeah, Pixar, it didn't happen. That seems to be what he's doing, like, degenerate. I want to see the photos, sir. Lay out the file. What's weird about this, too, is that, like, you know, he mentioned, so he's exposed to this guy defending your faith, Dan Story, who does do a little bit of criticism of, I don't think it's all about Van Til, but he's got some stuff in there. It's an apologetic kind of thing. So Darth seems quite triggered about that.
Uh-oh.
So here we go. All right.
It must be hard trying to.
What's that?
It must be getting really difficult for some of these guys to keep trying to. I mean, so many people can just walk away from these conversations and never consider them again. Like, honestly, I think with the stuff with Smokey Saint, it's to see what else can happen with not Smokey Saint, excuse me, with Darth Dawkins. What can happen next? Can somebody else stump him? Can somebody else get him to flip out? Whatever. It's like bad reality TV, right? Obviously, your critiques is about how he's arguing with someone else, what other people's points are. That's fine. That's great. But does Darth even realize that he's not doing anything for Christianity? Like, literally, he's got an entertainment value for being an asshole. Other than that, until that gets old, everybody just walks away. Right? They can just all walk away from him. There's nothing. No one is benefiting from this guy.
Yeah, I mean,
from what I can tell.
It's a weird kind of, you know, it's this. These guys, I think they're in like an S tier kind of Christianity, right? Like they've risen above. They're not just going every other Sunday or something like that. And, you know, they sing a hymn, they read some Bible passages, and, you know, they know John 3:16. You know, that's not good enough. You know, like if this ding dong talks to a Christian and they don't know that Acts is the fifth book of the New Testament, he's ready to write them off. Like, nope, send that person to hell.
Yeah, I get from what I can see, if you're cutting your teeth on Darth Dawkins, yeah, and you really start to dive into these kind of the precept arguments and where they fail and you know, the little ins and outs and stuff like that. And it also depends on who the speaker is. You can cut your teeth on him, and then when you go against some of his, let's say, people with similar arguments but not so well established, it will give you kind of a heads up in those kind of, if you just want to sit there and kind of like dunk on theists kind of thing, you might be able to do that. But yeah, anyway, go ahead.
Yeah.
Rick Van Til, have you read?
Trethwy, I think is his name.
Who?
Dr. Trethwy did a critique.
Yeah,
of him.
could you send me that name in a text message so I can copy and look that up? Okay, now, what is your second line of reasoning that Cornelius Van Til is a degenerate?
No, we already did it. We've already done it now 3 times.
No, you just contradicted yourself because you said it's okay to start with the autonomous reasoning of man versus we're starting with the revelation of God. You just contradicted yourself.
So
How is that a
evidence to say that
I don't know.
Did you contradict yourself?
I don't know.
You need evidence.
It's like I don't like because I mean Darth loves telling people that they've done that. Like, oh, you just contradicted yourself. You can't account for reason. You can't account for a subjective experience. Like, well, you weren't supposed to because it was an axiom. Then you went and did that. Now you've not made it an axiom. Now you've done something stupid. Because now you're saying that your subjective experience is what allows you to infer God. Tell me that's not what's happening mentally. Prove to me that you are in fact presupposing God, and that's how you infer your subjective experience is accurate, rather than what I think you're doing is you have subjective experience, and because you do, you are inferring that God gave it to you. Prove to me which one of those is true. You can't do it. You can only assert that you're getting it right. Darth is so goofy on this stuff that he thinks that, and I wonder to what extent he thinks this, to what extent is a person's epistemology and their capacity for accurately dealing with actual things out in the world is affected by that stance. At the very least, salvation is up for grabs, right? Like if you could clearly not be, you're not doing something biblical. Maybe you're not going to get saved if you don't believe this goofy ass thing that Darth Dawkins asserts is true. I don't think it's possible for a human being to do anything other than infer God from their subjective experience. Darth is just insisting that the opposite is true, and he can't support it. The only thing he can do is appeal to some kind of supernatural element of God's revelatory power to make it thus and so. But that doesn't do anything, and it doesn't change the fact that any non-believer has the same subjective experience. So he has to ask himself this question: how is it that they have a subjective experience that they are not concluding is revelation from God? If you think that that's automatic, why isn't sin is excluding it from them? Okay, then stop telling them that they need to conclude their subjective experience is dependent on God, because now you are actually trying to tell them to use the evidence of their subjective experience as an evidence for God. You're not presupposing God anymore.
How would you do that? How would you do that if you never?
You don't. You can't.
If you were never.
You presuppose your subjective experience as a subjective agent. You have no choice, and then you infer from that God.
Yeah, but the only way you would be able to infer God is based on somebody's proposition that there is one to begin with.
No, you infer it from the world around you.
How would you get there? No, how would you get there?
No. If you want to get into the weird thing, like you have to be exposed to the Bible stories or anything like that, yes, that's true. If you want to actually come to the conclusion that it's Yahweh or Jesus, you can get in that argument all day long. But metaphysically, from the metaphysical foundation of it, even if they're right, that the appropriate thing to do is that your general revelation and sense experience is somehow a revelation from God, you can't show that. And Darth wants people to use it as a way of concluding that God is real, that his revelation is that. He's no longer you can't presuppose God. You presuppose your sense experience. God is not the same level. God is not at that same level of presupposition. And Darth is abusing that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to like I said, like in a kind of a nebulous way. How would you get to a God through that?
That doesn't matter. So two different ways you can do it, right? You can go the William Lane Craig thing, where you can kind of intuit a higher power just from exploring the world around you, trees and the sky and the seas and blah, 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 blah. There must be something great that made all this stuff for me, right? You get a kind of general theism, right? Or even polytheism. But if you get into the specific stuff, if you get exposed to an actual dogma or the Old Testament, the New Testament, whatever, you get into something specific. That just all that does is color the type of thing that's actually happening, right? But if you want to get to the core epistemology of the thing that Darth Dawkins is trying to get to, he is fucking that basic element up. Like what you're talking about, that would be significant later on, but what he's already getting it wrong from the jump.
Yeah, I guess from my point of view is that, you know, if a person wants to kind of infer those kind of things, let's say that there's no God concepts, God concepts haven't even been brought up. There's no God concept. We're just going off subjective experience of the world around us, how our senses are inputting and everything like that. I see no reason to basically start. I mean, I guess it's fine for human beings to do that, to think that the wind might be the voice of a greater power or something like that. I see no point in doing that, because then at that point you're just basically making an imaginary friend. Sorry.
Right, but what he's essentially saying is that you need to be allergic to your subjective experience, but at the same time, the only reason that your subjective experience has any kind of importance or preciousness at all is because it's a revelation from God. But if you don't acknowledge that it's revelation, and instead you think it's autonomous reasoning, then you're shitting all over it, and therefore you're destined for hell. But
then you have to use your autonomous reasoning to make that determination, don't you?
Exactly. You still have to. You had to use your reasoning about your subjective experience to conclude the God you believe it gave you the subjective experience that you reflected on.
Yep.
You can't presuppose God in the way that he's talking about, and anyone else that wanted to pull this maneuver that Darth Dawkins is talking about could do it from any other religion if they have an ultimate God that they want to put out there. So Muslims can do this. You could do this you could do this and say it was just Yahweh. Just cut Jesus out. Yeah. So the precept solved. It's bullshit.
Evidences to
Did
point
you contradict yourself?
I don't see that I did.
Okay, did you not say that we must start with the autonomous reasoning of man?
I don't think there's any other starting point for
Okay,
me.
all right, so let's go through this again to show you how you contradicted yourself.
No, he did not say that
Let
to
us call
Darth.
it the 20th.
What's that?
No, he did not just say that to Darth. I don't know what else we can go with.
I don't know who this is. I paused this at just the right time. Isn't that Ayatollah? I don't know who this is. I'm trying to remember who that is. It looks like Ayatollah Khomeini, but I don't think it's that old. That living computer, his avatar.
Oh, I'm not sure. I can't see it on my phone.
Anyway, what were you saying? Like, what you don't believe what he said? What?
I said what if any atheist did the same thing? What would some of these guys say? Our only starting point is ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to throw that out there.
I mean, but and that'd be kind of the thing, right? Like and that's the thing in Smokey's reaction thing. Everybody starts from that same point. Everybody starts from their subjective experience.
That's why Smokey Saint was calling Sam a fucking idiot. Think this is why he was calling Redefined Living an idiot. Think that's the Sam he's referring to. Never mind. It's a side note.
Yeah.
Tell you later.
It is Khomeini. Thank you, Peter. Because the Bible, duh, Jefferson. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you. I stand corrected, sir.
Doubting Thomas for the win.
It's time, yeah.
Yeah, well,
Hang on, I want to read this. Enrique says, this is what I was saying last stream. Darth makes this assertion about the ultimate source of facts. Even if we grant that, you'd still need the intermediary proximate fact of a human mind. Exactly. And I think that's what Smokey brings up in his other video, too, because he even acknowledges that it's either Van Til himself or one of the critics brings this up, this idea of the difference between like the immediate point that, you know, basically your subjective experience, subjective agency. And then Darth is trying to roll it back to a previous point to say, no. It's got to terminate in this ultimate source of all knowledge. Otherwise, your subjective agency, that's just you thinking your autonomous reasoning means anything. And I'm telling you, it means fuck all. But the only reason that I have reasoning because it's kind of emerging from my interaction with the world around me, my subjective agency, my subjective experiences about the world around me. Whether it's an idealistic world or a realistic world or whatever you want to call it, right? That interaction's happening and then I can reflect on it and that develops my reason, that develops my senses. They're all working in concert with one another and informing one another and reinforcing each other. And then he wants to call that into question. No. Well, you need to understand that it's a great gift from God because it's his revelation. But once you start thinking that it's your own reasoning, buddy, you are going to hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to heckle, you're going to get permanently server muted. Okay. If you don't like what you're hearing, I'm not talking to you right now, Smokey. I'm talking to that other a-hole, right? If you want to heckle and be a drive-by, you're gonna get server muted. Right? Now,
Squirrel.
when we start with our sense perception and self-consciousness, those
you got anything you want to say?
What? Sorry.
Will either be from the get-go, be deemed to be revelatory of God, or not.
Oh my God.
Which is your position?
My position as a Christian has a presupposition that all of these facts are found in God or extend from God.
You're not answering my question.
Not an atheist, so
you're not answering my question.
See, this is the part that Darth's forgotten. I don't know how well versed Smokey is in this, but St. Augustine didn't have an issue with this, right? Because he basically what Smokey said there is pretty doctrinally true and goes back quite a ways, right? There, everything in ontology, anything that anything that exists in the world is dependent upon God's creation, right? And even if it was something that was created by man, obviously man was created by God. So everything terminates in what God made, right? That's the order of being. But the order of knowledge is how man actually comes to understand that or comes to know that. And the only way they can do that is through their subjective experience and by interacting with the effects of God. That's, I believe, how Augustine puts it. It's basically you interact with the world around you, which that ontology all that stuff is a product of God's creation, and through an interaction with that informs your knowledge of God. That's how you can know him. You come to know him and conclude him from your subjective experience dealing with the world he created.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that's what Smokey's trying to get at. I don't know if Darth understands that, because if he did, he could tell these Christians if he thinks that's wrong, because that kind of split between ontology and epistemology is what I've been getting at with him, and have talked to him about even before I realized that Augustine had already made that determination, that distinction. He doesn't bother to explain that to people. He acts like precept is the not only is it the only way to go, but it seems to be the only thing. It's the only game in town. So
All right.
when we start with the proximate facts of sense perception and self-consciousness, we will either take. Okay, would you let me finish, please?
No.
I know your tactic. Now, when we start with our self-consciousness and sense perception, it will either be revelatory of God, meaning that these proximate facts are taken from the beginning to be creaturely, or not. So when you start with your proximate facts of sense perception and self-consciousness,
he just means for him, every fact is proximate, right? Everything is proximate from God. This was remember when he did this to this one guy? He asked me, he's like, here's a basic mundane fact. The Eiffel Tower is in Paris, right? Can you assert that fact without referencing the necessity of referencing God? And the guy's like, yes. It's like, no. You're done, sir. You're done. Like, you don't have to reference God to assert the fact, or make the fact, state a claim like the Eiffel Tower is in Paris, France. If the Eiffel Tower is in France and everything that exists is ultimately God's responsibility, right? It's God's. It's because of God's creation, one way or the other. That already grounds that fact. The fact that you reference God when in referencing the fact which references God is monotonous and repetitive and weird. Like, it has no effect on the ontology, and it would have no effect on your epistemology. It wouldn't change how you come to know things. And if you were wrong about the fact that everything around you, you don't believe in God, then you're just wrong about some of the things that exist in the world. But how you come to know things isn't any different than how a Christian comes to know things. But Darth really likes the precept one because it gives him special permissions. He has secret knowledge. This is why I think, like, the precept stuff, it kind of tickles a Gnostic fantasy that some Christians have. Starts to tweak their nipples a little bit because they're in on something that others aren't. Because anybody can be saved, right? You just say, Jesus loves me and I'm sorry, Jesus, and repent and then start going to church. Yeah, maybe you're saved, but you're not really saved. Not unless you're a preceptor, You'll get a cottage on the outskirts of town. Me, penthouse suite with the good view.
do you say that we must adopt from the get-go that they are creaturely or not?
Yeah, Darth, I'm sorry. I'm really trying here. I'm not understanding what you're trying to actually ask.
When you start with your self-consciousness and sense perception as proximate starting points, we have a dichotomy here. Those proximate starting points will either be started with being acknowledged that they are creaturely, meaning that they are revelatory of and indicative of God as creator.
Nope, because it's only proximate because you assert it's proximate. If you assert subjective agency correctly as a presupposition, as an axiom, then what you end up having is the conclusion of God is a proximate fact. If you're right about God, then it's a proximate fact. Or it's wrong. And that's the part Darth doesn't like.
Or not. Which is your position?
Well, my position, yes, is that they are revelatory of God.
Good. You've now contradicted yourself.
Why?
Because you insisted that we have to start from autonomous reason.
I'd like to think so. Ironside.
I can see why. I think I can see why. I can see why Smokey's a little confused by this. There's nothing. Ugh.
I actually kind of like this one because Darth is getting Darth has admitted that subjective experience is revelation. When I heard this, I was like, there it is. Now I don't have to ask him. I don't have to wonder. He said it. He just thinks that those axioms are revelation, which, okay, if you want to do that, that's fine, but don't turn around and try to call them axioms, which he probably won't. The only axiom is God. But his problem with that, and the problem that I brought up before, is that he is concluding God from his subjective experience. And if he claims that he's not, he simply has to prove it. Good luck, Darth.
Autonomous reasoning does not listen. I have to explain it to you because your ignorance is on full display.
No,
you said in here. I'll just keep on talking until you stop. You said in here that we must start from autonomous reasoning. Did you not say that?
Yeah. Yep. I don't see how there's
autonomous reasoning. Autonomous.
He's like, I don't see how there's any other way.
Reasoning stands in antithesis to reckoning our proximate facts as creaturely. Are we?
What was that?
He believes that if you rely on your autonomous reasoning, what you're doing is you are positioning your subjective experience, which is quote unquote revelation from God, in a way that is beyond your category, beyond your role. You are creaturely. There is a creator-creature distinction. God made you and gave you that subjective experience and the ability to reason and the ability to reflect on it, and that you must understand that it is basically bound to God. Without God, you wouldn't have any of that stuff. But he can't explain how that's entailed. It's not logically entailed by what he's talking about. What he thinks is the logical entailment is the creator-creature distinction, a relationship. He's literally defining it and then claiming that that's logical entailment. But he can't demonstrate it. What can be demonstrated is that he's doing the exact same thing that Smokey is. He knows that he has subjective agency, he has subjective experience, and from that he's concluding that something must have given it to him. Now, whether you want to say that that's a correct assumption to make or whatever, but that's not the point. He is inferring from that fact, from that reason, his God.
Yeah. Hey, I got to step out. Duty calls. So
okay.
Have fun with the rest of your stream.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for joining.
Bye.
Clear on that?
How he gave us the creaturely essence that allows us to
listen to me. Listen to me. You're doing what you always do. It is nonstop filibustering. I keep on asking you very clear questions, and you keep on evading them every
clear
single
as
time.
mud.
Okay. Now, when we listen to me, you're not talking to me. You're talking past me. This is a desperate attempt to put up a smokescreen. How appropriate it's fitting with your name. Now, you said that we have to start with autonomous reasoning. Autonomous reasoning stands in an antithesis to recognizing that our proximate facts are creaturely. So either we start with proximate facts being creaturely and revelatory of God, or we start with autonomous thinking. You said we must start from autonomous thinking. Is that correct?
Maybe you need to define autonomous. Maybe I'm not understanding.
I already explained it to you earlier that autonomous reasoning is we do not start with proximate facts that are reckoned to be creaturely and revelatory of God.
So we don't start with a priori facts?
So you don't understand. You didn't have a previous understanding about autonomous reasoning, then, did you?
Well, can't we start with a priori facts?
I asked you a question.
No,
the term
apparently you can't,
autonomous
Smokey.
reasoning.
Yeah, I get it. I just think
did you understand it? Did you understand autonomy or autonomous reasoning prior to me explaining it to you?
Then you kept putting it in this.
Good. So you stated that we must start with autonomous reasoning, right?
Aren't you appealing to their autonomous reasoning?
Right. Listen to me very carefully. You see, folks, this is what a
Tangelo, cry me a river, man. I mean, that's up to her. I mean, you're still leaving comments here. So if she's blocked you because she doesn't want to see your comments, it's up to her. Hey, Jorge.
Pathological deceiver that this low life is. He doesn't want to have an adult to an adult conversation here. Now, you stated
I disagree
that
with
Cornelius Van Til, okay, would the moderators please serve or mute anyone who talks who's not Smokey Saint?
Goodness, I feel honored.
Okay, or discipline them, kick them.
Yes, because I mean, if the issue here involves anything like equal time, I mean, clearly Darth Dawkins has not had enough time to speak.
Out for several days. Okay. Now, you categorically stated that we must start with autonomous reasoning as opposed to what Van Til says, that we have to start even with proximate facts that are reckoned to be revelatory of God or creaturely. You said that we should not do that. Okay, that is your position. Now,
well,
autonomous reasoning means that it starts that these proximate facts are not creaturely. Are we clear?
Okay, what do you mean by creaturely?
Oh, so you don't know. You're a critic of Cornelius Van Til, and you don't even understand the basic concepts that he puts forth?
You explain it to me because you're the expert.
No, but you told me. No.
When he does that shit, it just reminds me of like people laughing at this isn't a great movie, but it's kind of a guilty pleasure of mine, has been for a long time. When people laugh at Sylvester Stallone's character in the movie Demolition Man for not understanding how the 3 seashells work. Like they thought him out after X number of decades, being on ice, and there's been huge changes in personal hygiene, and he doesn't know how the 3 seashells work. I don't know why Darth Dawkins just doesn't reference that. Maybe he's not. Maybe he doesn't watch R-rated movies. I'm not sure.
But you're the one who calls him a degenerate because he says that the biblical presuppositionalism is nuclear strength, and in fact, I don't recall that he said it's nuclear strength. I believe it was probably Greg Bonson.
Well, Greg
okay.
Bonson may have coined
now,
the term.
The point is simply this. You have not made any case whatsoever so far that Cornelius Van Til was a degenerate.
Well, I guess if Darth declares it, it's the case. All right, whatever.
Oh, no.
I think
you. Okay, hold on. Has anyone in here who's not a troll, and if you troll, okay, you're going to be kicked from the room. Okay.
If you disagree, you're a troll.
No.
Yeah, Smokey makes that point. Many skeptics have made this point. Many atheists. If you disagree, you're a troll. I think Darth Dawkins actually runs into his little fine print here. No, you can disagree vociferously with me.
Point is this. No, there are people in here who will love just to disagree. Is there anyone in here who is fully convinced?
Love to just disagree. Okay, so which one is it? People can disagree with you, but if you have concluded that they just love to disagree, then is that tantamount to trolling, and therefore they need to be kicked, silenced, muted, whatever?
That Smokey Saint made a legitimate case that Cornelius Van Til so far was a degenerate.
Well, Darth, I'll agree with you with one thing. I don't think he worshipped Van Til because
I'm not. Shut up. Okay, I didn't ask you to give me your
Jesus
appraisal,
Christ.
Okay, did Smokey Saint in any way demonstrate so far that Cornelius Van Til was a degenerate?
Yeah, you as his acolyte being as confusing as this.
No, you have failed more miserably than the Hindenburg. Now,
well,
do you have any other line of rationale that Cornelius Van Til was a degenerate?
Well, you seem like you're not going to listen to the rest anyway, so I'll just...
No, I was listening to you, but I was offering counter arguments, and you even shot yourself in the foot because you said we must not start with our creaturely status at square one. That is your position, right?
I feel like we have to, even if you're a Christian. So this
is it your position that at square one with our proximate starting points that they are not and should not be reckoned as creaturely?
Yeah, again, we have creaturely habits, which is
I'm not hearing a clear.
At no point did Darth, like of all the talking that Darth's done, he probably could have cleared up that definition for Smokey Saint by just explaining it from its foundation, and he doesn't. He just wants to hold it over his head because it's a little piece of, I don't want to say Van Tilian apologetic because it might cross those borders, but here we are. It's just. This is just sick. This is just Dawkins has got exclusive, like he knows he's got like some special information, and he's gonna beat Smokey senseless with it.
Your answer to my question.
Well, Darth, you don't even let me respond. I don't know.
No, because you're filibustering. Must we start with proximate facts, which are held to be not creaturely?
Must we start with facts that are held to be not creaturely?
Take it easy, Cryptomaria. Thanks for showing up.
No. I'm going to go with no on that.
Good. You've now contradicted yourself.
You keep saying that, and I don't see
That's
it.
right, because Cornelius Van Til said we must start in our apologetic. He says we must start in our apologetic, never compromising the central doctrines of the faith.
Right
and the
there.
first and foremost
Right there.
is
There you
our
go.
okay. If you continue to overtalk me, I'm going to server meeting. Good. You've now been server meeting. You have contradicted yourself. Because all the
I don't think that he's contradicting himself. He's just objecting to the scheme you're trying to lay out here, Darth Dawkins.
Van Til was saying is that we must start with our creatureliness because everything in the world reveals God. Romans 1. Ever since the beginning of the world, God's eternal powers have been clearly seen through everything that has been made so that men are without excuse. Now, is Romans 1 declaring that all of the proximate facts around us are indicative of God?
Yes.
So that means then that Romans 1 is saying that we start with proximate facts that are indicative that we're creaturely.
Yeah,
All Van Til is saying is we must not start in our apologetic by appealing to the false beliefs of unbelievers, and that false belief is their autonomy, that they are not creaturely. So
that really wouldn't be it. The fault, if that really is Van Til's kind of like central point, that's really not the problem. The problem would be that they acknowledge that this stuff around us exists as well, but they don't credit it to a creator God. That's their issue. The fact that Van Til works in this whole autonomous reasoning bit was sort of a, from what I can gather, and I have not read a complete Van Til work, but from what I can gather from what's been said about him and from what I have read about him in excerpts, it just seems like some really tortured apologetic, kind of bred out of like some really weird philosophical idealism.
When we appeal to an unbeliever, okay, should we appeal to their belief that they are and build on that they are creaturely or not creaturely?
Well, yes, I would cling on the idea that we are all creaturely. Again, I'm not sure if I know.
No, you're not addressing the question.
And that's a good point, because I haven't really objected this enough. It has nothing really to do with Smoky Saint being a degenerate, or Van Til being a degenerate, excuse me. Smoky Saint likes calling people that he thinks are wrong degenerate, and that's what's gotten him in the crosshairs of Darth Dawkins here. So really all he had to do was maybe pick his words more carefully, but Smoky doesn't like to do that. He likes to step in and start kicking people between the legs, and it generates this kind of attention. So that's really why I'm looking into it. Mostly because the reason that I was kind of intrigued by this was because through this messy kind of back and forth, Darth revealed quite a bit about like his stances and stuff. Answered 4 or 5 questions I've had about his take on Christianity and Van Til.
You just sidestepped the question. When we appeal to the unbeliever with our apologetic, do we appeal to them first and foremost to their being creaturely from the get-go, or do we appeal to them with reasoning that builds on top of their starting point that they are not creaturely?
Oh, I think I see what you're saying. Okay, I see, because creaturely, I was thinking you were talking about fleshly or just composed of simply.
No, sir, I made myself very clear this whole time that creaturely means that it is derivative of and reflective and revelatory of God.
That could just be the same as flesh nature, though, Darth.
Okay, yes. I would say that we cannot always operate with a secularist.
No, sir. Cornelius Van Til's position is that when we present evidences, we do not start presenting evidences by appealing to their autonomous reason, which means that first and foremost, that they are not creaturely, meaning they are not a creation of God.
that was actually my point of how he said it replaces all apologetics, because you
No,
don't
sir.
see it.
No, you're not addressing the.
You
You
don't have
are
the-
a fundamentally deceitful person, and you have the balls to call a godly man with an impeccable character like Cornelius Van Til degenerate. And this whole time, you have been failing more miserably than the atheists do defending their atheism. Now,
Well, if you have to say it.
so is it wrong when Van Til says we must not present evidences that start with and build upon the false belief that the unbeliever is not creaturely? So when we present evidences, do we present evidences that are starting that they are creaturely?
But that doesn't make any sense, because in other forms of these kinds of discussions, epistemology is subject to ontology, in the sense that how you think you know things and how you can go about knowing things around you is an order of knowing, and that's a different kind of interaction that you're having. It's dependent on the world around you, the world of things that is created by God. You are still every bit the creature of God in that case, but that actually then accounts for you being wrong about things that you think you know and things that you think you don't know. You can actually be wrong in your epistemology. You can get things wrong about what's actually out there, like maybe being wrong about the God that Darth Dawkins claims that exists. The problem now, though, is that there's some actual like entailments built into some of the stuff that Darth is running with here that make it seem like it calls into question, how is it the case that someone doesn't have this revelation? Is it up to them to understand that their subjective experience is revelation from God, or do they require grace in order to come to that conclusion? Those are some theological questions that would be interesting to ask Darth Dawkins. I would wonder if he would actually address them directly. I kind of suspect that he wouldn't. He would start off by calling whoever asked that, a degenerate, maybe? No, I don't think he's going to start using that word. Smokey used it too much.
Or do we present evidences that start that they are not creaturely?
Or we prevent evidences that they are creaturely.
No, answer the dichotomy, sir.
Well, I just did. We do present evidences based upon the idea that they are creatures of God. So
good. You now contradicted yourself again.
Why?
Because you said that Cornelius Van Til was wrong in his apologetic, in biblical presuppositionalism. Because in biblical presuppositionalism is we do not present evidences that appeal to or build upon fundamental false beliefs of unbelievers. That is Van Til's position.
And that's a stupid position. That is a stupid position. And I don't actually know that was entirely Van Til's. See, I'm actually kind of wondering about this. I need to get that book. And I actually have a friend that owns I think Van Til's biggest one, because I think Van Til is kind of cozying up to that idea. I actually think it's Bonson that gets hardcore into this kind of fundamentalist take that Darth Dawkins is doing. I'd be interested in kind of comparing them. I need to reach out to my friend, because he might not just have one. He might have actually Bonson's book too.
Do you object to that? Do you object to that?
No, because no one does that.
Good. You've now contradicted yourself again. Now, do you have any...
He's not contradicting himself, dickbag. He disagrees with how you're setting this up. This is just pathetic from Darth Dawkins. I mean, as much as he's claiming that Smokey Saint failed in this whole thing, and even I think Otangelo, or maybe that's not real Otangelo, I'm not sure. I don't know what's going on in my own live chat anymore. This is a huge fail from Darth Dawkins. He has an opportunity, like if he wants to get this point across, he has the ability to like kind of sell this thing. And he's actually made this worse. Like, I mean, if Smokey's saying, and he's a younger person than Darth Dawkins, right? So if Darth Dawkins he's an elderly Christian, wizened in the faith and that kind of thing. Wizened sounds like he's been urinated on. Anyway, if he's in this situation where he can kind of bestow some knowledge on this young, upstart Smokey Saint, he's not doing it. In fact, now, because this has been so contentious, there's a very real chance that Smokey Saint, and this is no excuse for this if it's irrational, but given this kind of rhetoric, could you blame him for not wanting to go anywhere near this fucking apologetic anymore? It's a goddamn train wreck.
Any other line of reasoning that Cornelius Van Til, you have failed miserably on both accusations. Now, do you have a third line of reasoning that Cornelius Van Til was a degenerate?
Wait, so which is it actually?
Okay, I'm going to ask one more time. If you choose to ignore
Oh,
the
we're getting to the end,
question
so
and keep on filibustering, you're not going to be removed from being server muted. Do you have any other line of reasoning that Cornelius Van Til was a degenerate?
Yeah, you.
Okay, there we go. Mute his dumbass. We're done. Okay? You know what? You are a vile human being. You know squat diddly about Cornelius Van Til. You've never read any of his works. You've never even read any of the biographies about this man. You can barely even name one name who I've never even heard of, who was allegedly a major critic of Van Til. Okay? You haven't read any of the other works of people who were major critics of Van Til. Okay? You're a fake, a phony, and a fraud. And you are a disgrace when you impugn a man who lived, and from a human standpoint, an impeccable godly life. Was he a perfect man? No, no one is perfect.
Fat Photog, yeah, I cleared it. He says this like 2 or 3 times in this video. Squat diddly, not diddly squat. I don't know if like maybe he thinks flipping it around is cool, like he's trying to start something with the kids. But yeah, weird.
I don't even agree with him on his Calvinism. But when you sit there and you drop your pants and you defecate and urinate on the memory of, according to everyone who knew this man, that he was godly, and you call him a degenerate, you, sir, are the degenerate. You are a scumbag.
Seconded.
By the way, did you get that, Tom Rabbittt?
All right, so that's it. So, okay, I guess I'll move on to the second one. The second one is like only like 10 minutes long, and it's him screaming at Nephilim. This one's less interesting. I might speed this one up a little bit more. It's fairly nuts. This actually happened before the conversation he had with Smokey. Smokey came in there, I think, because somebody had drawn blood on Nephilim free, and Smokey wanted to kind of jump in on the feeding frenzy, maybe. I know that probably not being fair. I don't know if he's trying to kick him while he's down or what, but anyway.
I hope you got this for your recording. Hey, you two out there. Tom Rabbittt likes to record these. Hey, Tom Rabbittt.
There's no reason to believe when read in the context of the.
Sure, there is. There's 150 passages in the Bible that describe sleep as death. Death is sleep.
Okay, and yes,
Ecclesiastes 9:5 says, "For the living know that they shall die, but the dead know not anything, neither have they any more reward. For the memory of them is forgotten." Now,
I don't think Ecclesiastes actually writes in there, like I think Nephilim may have kind of ad-libbed that in there. Yeah, for a little background, for whatever reason, they're talking about soul sleep or Christian mortalism, and this is the idea that your soul is sort of like conditionally mortal or something. It's a goofy idea. I don't entirely understand it. I'm only a little acquainted with it. It's not mainstream. I think it's a big thing with Seventh-day Adventists, and they're getting into this discussion now. The fact that they're discussing this out of Ecclesiastes, like Ecclesiastes has a lot to offer people, especially, anyone who's interested in Hebrew Bible studies from, like the Jewish perspective, the Jewish faith perspective, or anybody who's interested in Christianity, and how you reconcile something like a book, because it's one of the wisdom books. How you reconcile that with some of the stuff written in the New Testament. Ecclesiastes is kind of nuts. It almost wasn't part of the Hebrew Bible. A lot of scholars think that the reason it got included was because it's supposedly written by Solomon. He's credited with it. I don't think any scholars actually think he wrote it, but he was sort of credited with it. But Ecclesiastes has a lot of interesting stuff in it. It has an interesting take. It's sort of like the brooding, navel-gazing pessimist of the entire Bible. Like, it has little gems in there, like it's better to be dead, or the dead are better off, and it would have been better if you weren't born. Real, kind of the like the Bible book if it were written by Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. So, but these guys are talking about whether or not your soul is capable of coming back, or your soul is paralyzed or something when you're dead. It's bonkers.
Ecclesiastes wrong? Well, you're going to say, well, that's because Jesus went raised yet. That's just your idea. This is how you fix.
I think this can be speaking phenomenologically, Nephilim.
It is irrefutable.
It doesn't indicate.
I'm sorry, you're wrong. The Bible describes the state of sleep.
Listen. I don't mind you disagreeing, but what I do mind is you being rude. Okay.
Well, I don't. What I mind is people lying about what God's word teaches. That's
okay. Well. Actually, your position.
So shots fired already. These guys clearly know they know each other, and I've heard that they've gotten into it with each other before. But you know, doctrinally, I think they disagree with each other. Darth Dawkins is like, you know what I really don't like? It's when people are rude. Like, maybe record some of these conversations and play them back to yourself. I wonder if Darth does that. I know people say that he watches content that he's been recorded on or he's been featured in, but I really wonder.
Has been in an extreme minority.
I don't care about that. It's the truth.
No, it's a relevant
No,
fact.
it is the fact.
Now, when it says the dead do not know anything, this might semantically refer to soul sleep,
More
but
philosophy.
it doesn't. Okay, please don't overtalk me. Okay,
Well, don't bring
might
philosophy into
Please
scripture.
don't overtalk me, Nev. Now, it semantically could refer to soul sleep.
Nephilim draws the line at philosophy being brought in, but I don't want to deal with philosophy. Well, let's just deal with some crazy ass theology. You know, it's like Abe Simpson. They took him to the hospital. They just needed to take him to a quack, you know, feed him a bunch of bullshit, you know, information that worked on him. But he was convinced that his skeleton was going to jump out of his skin. And he just needed to be electrocuted in the teeth.
But it doesn't necessitate soul sleep. This could be simply referring phenomenologically because they're physically dead. They don't know anything of our world. Okay. Now, when we come to the account of the rich man and Lazarus, okay, you're going to have to say that this is a parable, but there's no reason whatsoever to instantiate that it is a parable.
Well, yes, there is. I'll be happy to discuss that.
Go ahead.
Sure. But personally, let's understand this. When we talk about the passages, I'm telling you what the passage says. I'm showing it. I'm reading it, and you're telling me what you think it says.
Are you talking about the Ecclesiastes?
What's happening here is philosophy replacing scripture.
Okay, I asked you a question. Are you referring to the Ecclesiastes passage?
I'm referring to any time you point to a passage and say, "Well, what it really means."
Okay, what verse are you saying that I'm referring to?
Before he gets onto that question, that's interesting. JC's, I grew up a Seventh-day Adventist. I resent the amount of information about Ellen G. White I carry around in my head. Yeah, well, I don't know if you ever watched any of his stuff, but Smokey has a lot to say about Ellen White and the SDA church. Even if you've left it, I don't know if you really appreciate hearing that from him. But she was kind of different. Like, she thought she was a prophet, and they had this weird thing where she's basically kind of like retconning the previous guy's belief that I think Jesus was supposed to come back in 1840 something, and he didn't. So she came up with the idea that no, he wasn't supposed to come back here. He goes to the holy tabernacle, the tabernacle in the sky or something like that. He's cleaning up there, and as soon as he's done with his chores, he'll be down here to take care of us. Weird.
Any passage that you refer to?
No, please, Neff, please don't
generalize. Well, you have to name one and discuss it.
Neff,
Okay,
you're beginning to turn into a loose cannon.
No, you're trying to tell me. You're trying to corner me into something I haven't done.
Neff, you're really.
No, really. What passage? Which one did you mention?
Neff, you were mentioning in Ecclesiastes about the dead knowing nothing. Now, I can grant you that semantically it might mean soul sleep, but it doesn't.
God equals the square root of -1. Thanks. I probably should have named this stream to Just Wake Up. Damn it, man. Damn it. Oh well.
Doesn't have to necessitate slow sleep. It can be referring phenomenologically that the dead know nothing because their bodies are physically dead. They don't have access to the sense perception of this present world. Okay, so you're going to have to do more than simply cite that passage.
So they don't have any senses? You're just admitting.
No, they don't have physical senses. The dead know nothing.
Yeah, it's hard to know. Like, in some cases, they thought that soul sleep isn't a temporary heaven. So, like, in the SDA thing, when you die, like, so Jesus hasn't come back yet, right? So people haven't gone to heaven or hell. That happens when Jesus comes back, according to like the Seventh-day Adventists. So in the meantime, when you die, you basically go into like a state of hibernation, and your soul is sort of trapped there. So you just go to sleep. And then the next time you wake up, it's because it's the end of the world. God's come back, and you better hope that, how do they put it? Your name is written in the Holy Book of Life, because that's how you know that you get to go. You get into the good real estate as opposed to heading south to hell.
Could refer to the phenomenon of this present physical world.
So now, here's the philosophy that you add to the scriptures.
Listen to me carefully.
The passages don't say those.
I like how both of these guys, for the most part, are just really speculating wildly. Like, they both have access to Bibles. I haven't heard one of them mention like reading in the margins for, like, if they've got a study Bible, they could maybe check and see if there's any notes on what this passage might be translated about, or they could go and get a textbook from, say, John J. Collins, who covers all the books of the Hebrew Bible, and he covers this one pretty well. It doesn't really get into the discussion of soul sleep because it seems like a really minor, nitpicky issue for Protestants to bitch it like Southern-day Adventists over.
Those things.
Enough, man. You got to act more like an adult, okay?
You got to stop killing me your ideas and show me the passages in the Bible.
Now,
that say it.
you do understand that there are certain verses in Scripture that have a semantic range that can mean more than one thing. Okay, for example, when it says, "No man can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him," surely you have to grant that semantically it might refer to irresistible grace, right?
The problem with this is that death is simply.
I asked you a question now.
Okay, hold on. Yes, for some passages that's true. Okay.
Right. Okay.
However,
So when we approach this passage in
I'm not done.
Ecclesiastes,
However, there are so many passages that describe the state of death in a very simple, clear manner that to argue that all these passages simply could mean something that the passages don't actually state
death is
the error. Now let me address this parable of Lazarus.
By the way, are you a Trinitarian? Are you a Trinitarian?
So this is how we know that it's a
Are you even listening to me? Are we having a conversation?
Yeah, you wanted to.
Are you giving a lecture?
No, you wanted to.
I mean, if Darth Dawkins knows Nephilim free at all, he knows that a conversation with him is fraught with problems. Like, I had a conversation with him for the better part of an hour, Nephilim free, and it was bonkers.
Talk about Lazarus. So I'm going to address Lazarus.
Okay, so show me from the text.
No,
show me from the text where Jesus ever gave a parable where he identifies people by name.
Okay, irrelevant, and here's why.
No,
because
it's not irrelevant.
It
That's
is.
the tactic of atheists. It is relevant.
You're strawmanning the crap out of it there.
Show me why
I don't need to. I'm going to show you another reason.
Listen, Neff,
I'm going to show you another reason that we know. I'm trying to be patient with you, Sport. I'm trying to show you that it's a parable.
I'm going to give you one more warning, Neff.
I'm going to give you a warning.
Give you one more warning. I'm making a point of moderation. I'm making a point of moderation, Neff. I don't want to have to serve meet you. You are acting.
Well, I don't care if you do.
Renzo, be quiet.
I don't need this chat room. It's not going to make me quiet.
Renzo is trying to get in between him and Darth's saying, "Yeah, Renzo, be quiet. No, I've got this perfectly under control." No, you don't. You're dealing with a crankier older gentleman than yourself, Darth.
I don't care. Listen to me. I want you to politely disagree with me so everybody can hear point counter. Okay, now if you ever talk me again, I will be forced
to
serve
care if you do.
Okay, all right. Okay, I warned you.
It doesn't matter. Preach your philosophy.
Like, dude, this isn't a vain philosophy. All we're saying is that
we're done. What he doesn't want is somebody who disagree with him, who's an intelligent interlocutor.
So Darth cuts off CIA here and goes straight into the meta. Like, I was almost kind of interested to hear what CIA was going to say about this, because obviously he had some objections to what Nephilim free was going on about too. So, and Darth didn't do anything to clear any of that kind of stuff up. He literally got in there and kind of muddied the waters.
He just wants to run roughshod verbally over the opposition. Okay. Now, he quoted Ecclesiastes as definitive proof of soul sleep. Right? Did we all hear that? Right? We all heard him quote that passage. And I pointed out to him, yeah, that possibly could mean soul sleep, but it can also refer phenomenologically that the dead know nothing of this present world because they're physical.
Yeah, Jason. Yeah, I've heard some strange things. I knew that the town that I grew up in, we had a pretty fairly influential Seventh-day Adventist church. And a lot of people that went there, they had some really strange ideas. It was kind of weird too, because they're basically vegetarian, right? Like they're not. It's not strictly no meat, but for the most part, like the less meat you eat, the holier you are, or something like that. But they did some really strange things. So it was like a lot of the families, it was like, eating meat is unhealthy, and it's not. I'm not exactly sure how they got that, but they would just eat tons of butter instead. It was insane. I was like, I'll just have a gallon of mac and cheese.
Physically dead. Okay. Now, yes, Otangelo.
I could moderate this. So 3 minutes to you and 3 minutes to Matthew to answer. You both like to talk, so I expect.
Otangelo, I was more than abundantly patient with him. The last time I had an interaction with him, it was the same thing. He doesn't want an adult to an adult interchange. Okay. He first insisted that the passage in Ecclesiastes could only mean soul sleep, but then he folded very quickly thereafter that it doesn't necessitate soul sleep. Okay.
This is a question which is open for me. When we die, will we sleep until the resurrection and Christ is returning, or will we be conscient?
When you say
by the Lord?
sleep, okay, what is meant by that? Does it mean that there will no longer continue on after physical death a type of self-consciousness, or does it simply refer that the body is inactive and the soul or the spirit is separated from the body? Okay. Now we have a compelling case, right, in the account of the rich man and Lazarus. Okay, there's no reason to believe that that this is a parable, especially when Jesus spoke of them as having real names, referring to them as real persons. Okay, it's markedly different from the parables that Jesus told. Okay, but Neff cannot acknowledge this. Because it
depends on which parables and which gospels, right? Because some of them were like they were confounding to everyone, and he wouldn't give them like a clue as to what he was actually talking about. And he was just like literally telling people kind of nonsense. They couldn't understand what he was talking about. And he wasn't going to give them like a cipher to sort it out.
Undermines. Now, isn't my correct understanding for others in here? Is Neff an anti-Trinitarian?
No idea.
I don't think I've heard it.
I've heard that he's not a Trinitarian, but I haven't. That's what I want to ask him before. He went semi-berserk.
Well, he said that like he believes in God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, but he doesn't refer to them as persons.
Okay, well, you see, this is the common tactic, and I haven't confirmed yet that he's anti-Trinitarian, but those who are, it's a common tactic for them to respond with verbiage, giving the illusion that they believe in the Trinity. Okay, so the bottom line is this: when he believes in soul sleep of the dead, okay, were Moses and Elijah dead? Well, yeah, they were. Were they having conscious interaction with Jesus at the Mount of Transfiguration? Right? Oops.
You see, my thing is this: I love Brother Neff to death, but when he critiques you, Darth, in just quote unquote extending or reading philosophy into the text, he needs to be introspective and apply that to himself, because there was another gentleman he was talking to before you. And I don't know if he had mentioned, I don't know if the other gentleman had mentioned the rich man and Lazarus thing after death, or some other case to where you had conscious agents after death. And then he just says, well, Jesus can wake whoever he wants, because like another Lazarus, and who he woke from his sleep, he did that in his ministry. And so he's reading philosophy into the text and saying, well, Jesus can just wake whoever he wants. So he's also extending philosophy into the text instead of reading what it says. And
it's not philosophy. I don't know why any of you guys keep using that fucking word. It's pure bald ass speculation. You are speculating about shit. This is like kids sitting around talking about like the limits of Superman's powers or some shit. It's speculation, not philosophy. And most of it's not even good speculation.
Then accusing other people of doing that which he's doing himself. So it's just stunning.
Yeah. Well, he knew that I posed a serious challenge to his defense of soul sleep. So he just wanted to machine gun talk, right? And it wasn't like I didn't give him numerous warnings. By the way, did you get that, Tom Rabbittt?
Yeah, Darth is such a great guy. I gave him numerous warnings. How many people have to say that about their conversations with anybody? Oh, I gave him plenty of warnings. It wasn't my fault. He should have known I was going to abuse him. Remember, you wanted this. Boy. Hey, Benghazi. Nice to see you here. Were you here the entire time, or did you just arrive? Because now things are over. Well, I'll drop the. Let's see here. Drop this in the chat, and if anyone wants to come in, feel free. I'll keep this up for another few minutes before I take off. Just to let people know, there may be a few people that I will not let in. Oh, Tangela. Just because I don't want to see it turn into an immediate dumpster fire, and I want to be able to like shut it off and then get around for bed. But yeah, so yeah, after this, I'm probably going to be doing a show tomorrow. I'm going to get that scheduled here pretty soon. It's probably going to be at 6 p.m. tomorrow. My apologies to anybody that might kind of snipe. But I'm going to be going over the kind of weird. Darth gets a huge kick out of Matt Dillahunty complaining about that birthday card that he got. I think Tom Rabbittt called it Darth Dawkins cackles like a hyena over Matt Dillahunty's birthday card. Stephen Ryan from probably shouldn't use his full name on there. Maybe he doesn't want that. Anyway, Stephen from Cider and Port. He used to go by the YouTube name Religion is Bullshit. He asked if he could co-host that one. He was kind of interested in that one. I agreed, so we're going to set this up. So we're scheduled to do that at 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night. Hopefully he'll be able to join me. There's a little bit of a time difference. He's over in Ireland. So that should be fun. We're going to go over that video, probably just that video. It's a little bit of a longer one. I'm guessing I know who this is. Hello.
Hello. I wanted to join because you said I couldn't.
There we go. I'm just kidding.
Well, I may be the real Otangelo, and I can prove it if I turn on my camera.
Oh, don't do that, Peter. Don't do that. By the way, nice.
Too late.
Oh no! Wait a minute. If I enlarge this, is it going to like get this thing?
See, the shroud is real because I said so.
I'm pretty I mean, you're practically sprinting toward hell at this point, Peter. If it's at all real, look at you.
I think I'm already past that point, so I can just do this.
Yeah, you might as well. Yeah, you might as well stay true to yourself. I think God would appreciate it, and you know, he should have a sense of humor.
After all, he made me in the image of Jesus.
Yeah, and
with my long hair, my lushy long hair and everything.
That is true, because like the shroud is like when I see the shroud of Turin face, they're like, "See, doesn't that look like Jesus?" I'm like, yeah, if Jesus were Dutch.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I do have to be mad a little bit because I was trying to work and then I saw you were live and that pretty much messed up with my work.
Oh, sorry, but I mean, you can just keep it on the background. Just turn it down.
I did until Otangelo joined.
Oh,
and then
so what was the deal with were people just calling him fake Otangelo just to get his goat or what? Or was it really not Otangelo? Like, was there somebody in there that was cloning?
It may not be Otangelo.
Okay, yeah, it doesn't bother me one way or the other. So he tried to tell me at one point, like he said somewhere that he's like, you hurt my feelings because you didn't let me come on. He told me the last time he tried to come in here on the backstage, he's like, yeah, but I have a new avatar I want to show off. I'm like, get the fuck out of here! I'm not letting you on for that. What are you 12? Like, I am Otabgalo. Yeah, maybe that is an Otangelo.
Yeah. I mean, I was doubting Thomas, I think, who said it's not the real Otangelo because he doesn't misspell his own name. So at some point, obviously, he had to misspell his name in order to prove that it was him.
Well, and that's what he said. See, I misspelled my name.
When it wasn't. Yeah, he might not be the real Otangelo.
Well, if he's not, good work.
I may or may not know that it's not the real Otangelo.
Okay. Jody, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I have a bone to pick with you. You have sucked me in to your commentary on Darth Dawkins and his cray-cray. I didn't know that I was missing this in my life. I had gotten away from people with mental illnesses, and you've driven me back because this is the most fascinating thing. I'm listening. This is like the 10th of your podcast or live commentaries that I've listened to.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a way of like, I like, this has been in my life for, I mean, Darth wasn't always around. It was other guys like him. It was other kind of like high maintenance personalities that were into pre-sup and stuff. But yeah, Darth Dawkins, I think it's been kind of a mainstay for at least 4 years now. So this is my way of sort of like, I don't know if it's like catharsis or if it's just like a way of kind of exercising the demons. But yeah, I like, and the thing for me is like, you know, these guys will posture and stuff like, well, why don't you come in here and have a one-on-one conversation with me like a man? Like, yeah, on Discord.
Like they don't. Like they don't. I mean, Darth can come in here, and I wouldn't have a problem with stepping out if Darth comes in here and allow the one-on-one.
Yeah,
no
but
problem
even then,
whatsoever.
that weird criticism, like, well, why don't you be a man and debate me, bro, on social media? It's like, do you realize how far down the rabbit hole you've gotten? Like, I mean, if you really wanted us to man up, we would meet in person, have a cup of coffee, talk face to face. You wouldn't be able to, like, sit there and like fill your diaper and rage and all this kind of stuff.
Pretend your dick is a lightsaber and have a fight.
But he doesn't want to do that.
Oh,
I mean, this
did I say that out loud? Sorry.
You did.
Oh, no, I'm just saying this is really about it's about feeding his narcissism. It's about feeding his illness. I mean, he loves the attention. When he talks about, I'm threatening you, I'm going to mute you, and don't make me mute you, don't make me mute you. I mean, it's just crazy. And the last one I was listening to, he's got the mute list, and he's got the super mute list, and he's got the super duper mute list. I mean, he's running out of lists to mute people on. He just keeps moving them back and forth. It's amazing to see this.
And he's got his group of people have kind of enabled him. Like all those bots that do like the super muting, those weren't built by him. They were made by, well-wishers and acquaintances and stuff that help kind of weaponize this. And that's just made him more obnoxious.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, whenever Darth says, "Why don't you man up?" that means, why don't you man up and come to my safe space where I can mute and kick you and have a conversation?
Well, I've been amazed to find out that he's been given mod powers on multiple servers, and that just kind of blows my mind. I know it's a ratings thing or equivalent of ratings, but
there's an easy explanation for that. He won't go on another server unless he gets mod powers, and since he draws people in, they will give him the mod powers just to have him on the server. That's it.
But that's not discussion. That's just it's just craziness.
I feel like it's kind of weird because it's like, has anybody ever seen like the Breakin' movies, Breakin' and Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo? It's that kind of weird subculture of people like hanging out and break dancing and doing break dancing competitions and stuff. And it's like, okay, well, at least these people were outdoors. They were ostensibly getting fresh air. I mean, most of it was in like Santa Monica in the 80s, so it's not that fresh. But anyway, they're getting some exercise and stuff, and they're out doing that, But this stuff is kind of like that kind of weird subculture, but it's all online, and it's just people like debating. Like, I mean, some of this stuff gets political, but most of the stuff that I see, the stuff that gets really, really triggered and just crazy is the religious stuff, and it's usually these kinds of personalities. And I don't know if, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if there's anybody like on the political side of things kind of dedicated to arguing politics that has the same kind of like cloistered, narcissistic, kind of this weird codependent relationship with his followers like Darth Dawkins has. Darth Dawkins is in this kind of weird, like some people call him like jokingly, they call him like a cult leader, but he kind of is like that. He's kind of become that it's not a very potent kind of way, it's a sad social media kind of cult leader, but it's still kind of a cult leader.
I wish I was still teaching psychology, because this is just classic. I mean, it checks off every single narcissist box, and it even goes into explaining how narcissists can get people around them to support them and do stuff. I've long had a debate even with myself if this is just feeding his ego, or he clearly also though is browbeating people and hurting people and taking people in different directions. And to a certain degree, people have to kind of say, you can't do this. Your arguments are wrong. Everybody chooses to be on Discord, but there is still an element of just kind of crazy abuse to this.
Oh yeah, I can vouch for it too, because I've been accused of like stalking these guys and hanging out on Discord and watching them. Tangelo likes to remind me that I do that, which is always news to me, because it's like, I think I've been on the politics and religion server, actually joined on like one of the channels where some people were talking, I think maybe 4 times. And today was maybe the 4th time that I was actually on there for longer than 5 minutes. I had it on. It was, and I pushed into it because I was having an issue with YouTube. I was listening to it in the background while I was working last hour of the day. I went into the one Skylar Fiction had one going on, and I went to the room that he was in, found him in there, clicked it in there. Sure enough, Darth Dawkins was in there, and they were talking. So I was just listening to it, and it's a lot more toxic than I thought.
Yeah,
like I get some remove getting this content like third hand from Tom Rabbittt, and I kind of like that because I can see the snippet, I can hear what he's got to say, I can break it down line by line or point by point. But yeah, when you're in there and hearing him go in real time, it's infinitely worse. He's gotten so much worse than he was even just a couple of years ago. He's bad.
He's got a stage and he's got everything that he could possibly want. In all this, I think he even likes the negative attention that he gets too. It makes him feel important.
Yeah, it's definitely like I mean, my guess is that it's his primary social outlet, and it's a dysfunctional one, so there's not much. Which I mean, I don't know how he does it. Like he's got to be on like a lot of blood pressure medication. Like I hope you got your compression socks on, buddy, because just. Yeah.
What's amazing to me though is that some of this argument and back and forth is interesting. I've heard some of the other precepts who get into these discussions and who are not triggered like Darth is, and it's an interesting back and forth. And then your commentary too, to help pull these arguments apart. I've learned a lot more about philosophy and about where the precepts come from and that kind of thing. So there is something to this. It's good for discussion, but it really does feel very tribal too. And when Darth or somebody of the equivalent gets in there, it's about bashing and hurting, not educating or even saying, well, you're wrong, here's why I think that you're wrong, and here's why I think that I'm right, back and forth. It's dumb, but here I am listening.
Yeah, yes, and I apologize. I should have done that earlier. When you mentioned it.
You're a horrible person. You're a horrible person.
Yeah, just ask Otangelo or Darth Dawkins. Yeah, I am a degenerate. Or Smokey Saint, that other guy that was on. Yeah, he hates my guts.
I've joined a soap opera, and I'm having to, or a comic book. We're talking about Odin's Sleep. It's like a comic book, and I've got to go find the Wikipedia article or the comic book articles on who all of these people are and their superpowers and everything. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and they all have these weird branching connections and stuff. And then it's really kind of strange because like amongst most of the people that I know that are kind of skeptics, I don't know. Like I'm kind of aware of like not Otangelo, Peter's connections with people because he knows Aaron Ra and a few other big people. He's produced for different people. So, and I think I met him initially through Math Pig, probably to talk to, but I think I saw him going after another kind of high maintenance personality named Jesus is Lord, who is a strange dude. Like I think he's stranger than Darth Dawkins. He's not as
He just made a video about me. I haven't seen it yet, but I know he made a video about me.
Was that the one yesterday? Peter rebuked on something?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll have to check that out. I'm sure it's not accurate, but
I had a close look at it. I think it was about the conversation that we had on Sidney Winston's channel, where he brought up a contemporary historian, Roman historian, contemporary to Jesus, and then he came up with a guy who wasn't Roman, who didn't live at the time Jesus lived, and I think I saw something that because the Roman Empire then took over Greece, now suddenly he was considered to be a Roman. I asked him for a historian from Rome, not a Roman historian, one from Rome, and he didn't get that. But details is tough when you're Christian, I think. I don't know. I have no clue.
Just tell him he has to think about it in context.
Oh, look who's in the side chat.
Oh, hello.
It's the revolving door Christian. Praise I am that I couldn't, that I want to be, that I shouldn't, and I can't.
As I like to call him,
praise
the prairie yam. Hello.
How is your crotch? Is it hanging out?
He's calling you Peter the Cucker. Oh,
the cucker, and he can't even spell that right.
Yeah, you should just spell it with a C. Spelling it with a K looks like you're also trying to make Peter into some kind of like white supremacist too.
It's yeah. Praise, why don't you come in? Let's have a conversation. Since I'm banned on your channel, I can't go there.
I don't know if Jody, I'll just warn you if he does take the invite. If you've got any pre-existing heart conditions or anything like that. things may devolve.
I'll practice my breathing and a little bit of meditation to see
exactly.
how
I
this
will.
goes.
I will find my. I'll just gonna. Usually, I mean, if it's praise or if it was Jill, I wouldn't really have to do anything. I would just get a glass of water, and then just let Peter just go at him, Dutch style. I don't know what that means. I just said
praise,
that. Sorry.
Praise, are you really trying to trigger me into putting up that picture of you on screen? Because I can. I'm just saying. Come in here, Praise.
Peter fantasizes over men's crotches. Okay, men's crotches.
Yeah. The fun part with Praise is you never know what happens because you never know what his position is. His position, I don't know. It depends on the moon or well, I have no clue.
I'm kind of curious too. I'm curious to see like how's this going to work, because Praise has been a fan of Darth Dawkins and Darth Dawkins' ability to quote kick the atheist's ass, but at the same time he's also, I think he's still pals with Smokey this week. So I don't know if the
Praise, can I take you up on that? Oh, please.
I'd rather jump into a volcano than talk with Peter. Yeah, I mean, the Netherlands don't really have any volcanoes, do they? So you probably can't arrange that.
Sadly, we don't.
I don't think you'd rather jump into a volcano. I think once you started getting close to the magma flow, you'd be like, nah, Peter's not that bad. Let's have some coffee.
And this is the silly part, because I would like to talk to Praise and see what's going on and see whether or not we can settle some differences. But Praise is a guy you can't trust. I went on his channel after Darth Dawkins put up that stunt with the guy who recently passed away and pretended to be him.
That was a dick move.
That was, according to the people in his community, was a good Christian man who did a lot for people who were less fortunate than he was, because he had some money, he had a good business, and Darth slandered that name by using his image. And I went on Praise's channel, and Praise basically agreed with me that was a dick move. While I was on, Darth jumped on, and Praise immediately swapped 180 degrees.
Sure.
And had a lot of fun with Darth, because that was a really good joke. It's a great joke of making fun of a guy who just passed away from cancer after a long battle. Praise. Yeah, that was a really Christian thing to do.
I find it very ironic after Darth was screaming about Van Til, about any aspersion that Van Til was a horrible person, to actually turn around and do that to somebody else, to directly do that. That's just, any excuse that you can make for narcissism, that's still just pretty poor behavior for a human being, period.
Yeah.
Well,
but then again, Praise doesn't have a backbone, so
I don't. Yeah,
what was I thinking?
And I don't know. I mean, Smokey would probably call him out, but I don't know if Smokey really cared about that, because it's just trolling. And Smokey does still spend a lot of time, I think, with Will Kincaid, so that's just par for the course. Yeah, I think it's interesting because they'll still blame, like, oh, these atheists, they lie and they prevaricate and they misrepresent. And it's like, so when you pulled that little stunt, you weren't lying?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's come to the point where
he stated that lying is worse than pedophilia.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
He's actually said this out loud more than once, yet he did it. But because he was trolling an atheist, I guess it doesn't matter. Like, Jesus is cool with that. Well, Jesus said something about, he called them a pit of vipers, and like, yeah, but he didn't misrepresent himself on social media. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, it's come to the point where people ask me whether or not being Christian is a good thing. I will point them to Praise's channel. I mean, buddy with a sex offender, mocking people who have passed away from cancer, having Darth Dawkins on there.
Well, the sex offender thing, that's alleged. That's alleged, to be fair.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
I'll go as far as
go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go as far as saying that that's probably true.
I was going to say that as an atheist non-believer, I mean, I know there are good Christian people. I mean, they're good any kind of people.
Yeah,
but
my best friend's Christian.
Yeah, it's just from me having grown up, you know, a Christian Methodist. None of the stuff that I'm hearing though on the channel, it comes anywhere near what was talked about, you know, in church about how you treat other people. I think I was listening to somebody today, maybe it was Skylar Fiction's channel, where a very nice sounding woman who's in on all of this, she's talking about praying for people that don't believe. And while I don't agree with her point of view, with her philosophy, she at least was trying to have some element of kindness here. And none of them, from what I could recall, jumped in and said, oh yeah, that's a good idea, we've got to remember to do that. It was right back to atheists are lying, deceitful, horrible people.
Yeah, it's become a way for them to just engage in kind of a really simplistic tribalism, which, I mean, it's weird that of all the things that's kind of, I mean, because I mean, I grew up in churches when I was a kid. It was before the internet, you know. Churches had kind of a sense of tribalism built into them, and you could really see that if you ever had a schism within that church where different families would kind of break off or leave, you know, there'd be disagreements or a big feud. But now that a lot of these guys are on the internet, I don't really hear them ever talking that often about the congregations they attend, about their church families, people that they talk to. And I see them on here, and all I can think of is like, I had to reflect on this once a few weeks ago, and I was like, you know, if I were still a teenager and still actively involved in a church, and I had access to these kinds of shows, these kinds of groups, I think I would be very, very guilty, feel very guilty and very ashamed, and actually kind of sad to be in those particular groups, to hear these people not only talk to skeptics and unbelievers the way they're doing that, you know, but to hear them talk to each other like that. They treat each other terribly. And when I was a kid, I actually got kind of, I was depressed because I heard an older person say something derogatory about Roman Catholics, and the only Roman Catholics I knew were this nice older couple that lived in the house next to the church. And they owned the pool that I was baptized in, and they were nothing but the sweetest people in the world. And then 2 weeks later, you know, this woman's telling me, "Oh yeah, well, you know, that's the whore of Babylon. You know, all those Catholics are going to hell." Like, what the fuck?
you bring up Catholics.
That was probably the beginning of the end.
I have a question. Do you know how precepts explain the fact that, you know, Catholicism basically was Christianity more or less for what, 1,000 years? Was that like 1,000 years of lies, or do they have a response to that?
I heard he's not really a pre-supper, but that Jesus is Lord character. I heard him make this claim that despite the councils of Trent and the Council of Nicaea and any of these other things that were going on, there were always people that knew what the gospel, quote unquote, the right gospel was. People had it, the right one, all in their head. And this is a weird narrative. So on top of making that assumption that the Bible is this monolithic thing from Genesis to Revelation, which is not true and a really strange thing to assume. I wish I'd known that when I was going to church. But you assume that, and then you get it into your head that at some point, since this is a God-breathed and inspired work, there must have been at least a handful of people that had the whole thing 100% correct. But different churches and stuff get it wrong. And so these guys, it's a weird purity test. And when he said that, I was like, there's no way that you could ever really know that or prove that. That's just
but the Bible was created to counter, what is it, Arianism or something? There was somebody else who was creating their own text, their own codified version of what books should be celebrated. And then, the fathers of the Catholic Church, they said, well, no, we need to have our own. And that's where we had a lot of councils that got together and figured out what the canon was going to be. I mean, there wasn't a Bible for the first, 500 years of Christianity. There was books that were passed around, but there was no Bible, right?
Yeah, and it was weird because I've heard some of them say this. So, and I'd gotten into discussions with them about this. I'm like, if you deal with like the first, the first few centuries of the church, I don't think what is it, Athanasius's Bible? I think is
That's
the 4th century. So you're like in the mid 300s, late 300s. That's when you get like a canonical Bible. But even then, I think you just really gotten into codexes, the books in a binder kind of thing. They weren't scrolls. But yeah, I mean, they started changing. They started, having to deal with things like emerging heresies and things like that, and having these kinds of councils to try to cement different doctrines and stuff. There's all sorts of stuff going on. So like that whole early period for hundreds of years was changing. And then you factor into the fact that you had an oral tradition between the death of Christ and then, actual, you had a few decades between that and then Paul's letters. You probably got about 40 years maybe before Mark. Yeah. So you got you have a whole oral tradition there. Then you start getting a written tradition really going. And then you get all of that for like most of the manuscripts I think that we have. I think the oldest one is that postcard fragment of Mark, and it's a copy from 70 something, 80 something. I can't remember. It's old. Actually, no, I think I've got that wrong. It's in a museum in England. It might be 102 CE is like when they think it's dated. But yeah, I mean, the idea that through the canonization of the Hebrew Bible, the various translations of them, then the canonization of the New Testament scriptures, the councils in order to like get all that doctrine and stuff set up, and then the basic schisms that already happened. Two of the biggest churches happened early on: the Eastern Orthodox, and then the Roman Catholic Church. And the Roman Catholic Church had a Reformation, so you get the split with the Protestants. Eastern Orthodox never went through that at all. So the Eastern Orthodox, they can kind of look at like the division between the Catholics and the Protestants, like, man, you should have kept your house in order. So it's a weird story. And then to hear them bicker and fight with each other back and forth, and then like an atheist steps and is like, maybe you guys haven't really thought about maybe this is all bullshit, and then to have them kind of unite just for that one moment, like, okay, let's all put on the same hat. We're on the same team for this one moment. We need to check this non-believer. And then as soon as we make our points and we excuse them, we'll go right back to stabbing each other in the back over crazy doctrine.
Yeah, you give people a common enemy, and they'll overlook their differences in order to go after the common enemy. And then once the common enemy is gone, it's back to picking apart their differences.
Yeah, and the weird thing is, I've only seen it maybe once or twice since I've been in here, and I haven't always been involved in it. But I've been a couple of times I saw it happen live, where you've had a discussion between a bigger group of Christians and Christians and atheists, and as they're talking, they get into a dispute, and then while the Christians are trying to correct a non-believer or two, they start getting after each other. And in a couple of those cases, you'll see the one guy kind of like walk in there like the good soldier, like, no. This is an inside. This is it's a club, for club members only kind of discussion. Don't be airing out these grievances here. We'll do this at the quarterly meeting. This is not for the uninitiated. Like, oh, you realize how you guys sound, right? And they don't care.
To be fair, the common enemy. I think that's my role on social media.
It is
being the common enemy.
Yeah, because you're universally reviled.
You need a shirt. You need a shirt that says that I'm the common enemy.
Yeah, see, I can't do that because in real life things are a lot different. I recently finished some artwork that my best friend and I made. So I designed it and he made it. So I didn't do a lot apart from carrying big slabs of stone around, and he made it, and so I can actually show you. That's it.
Oh wow, that's cool.
It's an altar that is now in a church in a Syrian Orthodox church in Germany.
Wow!
I designed it, and then he carved it out of sandstone, and it was placed there. I think about month and a half ago. So,
and you did this for your Christian friend, correct?
Yeah, together we do some stuff still for churches. In Holland, there are not a lot of Christians left, and those who are left don't go to church much. But since we had the influx of Syrian refugees, the Syrian Orthodox Church is very well present here. Actually, the patriarch of the church lives just a few miles from where I live. He had to flee as well. And they keep buying up
kindness, though, that you're doing, and I think it cuts against the claims that the Darth people in the world make out is that no, you don't believe, but in terms of kindness, you're doing something like this and to help people that are refugees.
To be fair, I know a lot of people through my best friend. That happened because his sister and her husband moved in across the street from me, and they were pretty much the best neighbors you could ever wish for. They were great people, and that's how I met him. And they then moved away, and first to Belgium, and they're now in Germany. But I've met a lot of people, a lot of the Syrian community here now in Holland, and all of those people are just great people. And most of the refugees are Christians,
right?
But they're not at all like the Christians that I meet online. They're very, very social people. So what I've learned there is what I think actually a church should do. When someone's struggling, the church will give them money, will give them food, will give them everything they need. And that I've never seen that in an American church, where one of the church members is going through a rough time and the church chipping in.
That does happen here. When you get outside of the crazy Westboro Baptist Church types of things. I mean, the Methodist church that I grew up in, other churches in the neighborhood, friends, even other atheist friends, we've all talked about the good things that we've seen. And sometimes, you can have a church saying some of the most nasty things about different groups, minority groups, gays, whatever, but they really will come together to help people that are less fortunate. Sometimes they do it with an aim to conversion, but a lot of times it's just to help people within the church or even slightly outside of the church who are down on their luck, and they do help. I mean, it does help facilitate some of those common behaviors that we humans have. It's probably one of the reasons why religion, as a meme or as something, it's survived in us for a long time. It helps bring us together to accomplish things that we can still do, but on a much larger scale. That would be my thought.
Yeah, I probably do.
Well,
I mean, I think it's Pine Creek makes that argument that he thinks that we're probably evolved, or at least this has been a thing that's been selected for as a belief in a higher power, because some of the social aspects of it haven't, possibly increased our chances for survival. So
yeah, I think E.O. Wilson, he's actually an entomologist. No, he studies ants, but he was basically one of the people that was talking about that why religion might have stuck around with us is that it helps to facilitate this, and you can get a lot of people. I mean, if you think about it, generally speaking, if you're a Christian, you can go anywhere in the world and be part of a related group. It's a way of keeping information and keeping a group together to accomplish a common goal.
Yeah. Yep. Well, guys, I think
and then there's the internet, and then there's your show, Jefferson, because you've got all of us on here.
Right? Yeah, we're united tentatively and sort of an appreciation for the train wreck that is some of these conversations. Yeah, this is kind of vapor. Like, I don't expect this to last. So, but I mean, as long as there's something kind of like this to comment on, I'll probably keep doing something with YouTube. Until I do like the Bill Burr thing, you live too long and you start becoming politically incorrect. you offend everybody, and it's like, okay, it's time to shut up and just sit back in my chair and relax. Well, thanks for coming on, Jody.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
What's wrong with offending someone?
Nothing. It's a problem.
Asking for a friend.
It's when you offend absolutely everyone. That's when you've lived too long. Maybe that's
yeah. I haven't gotten that far yet. Although most of my co-hosts would disagree, but that's another thing.
All right, gentlemen, it was nice meeting you, and I look forward to talking to you again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime, Jody. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Nice meeting you, Jody.
All right, Peter. I think I'm going to end this one so we can wrap this up. But yeah, anyone who's interested, 6 p.m. tomorrow night, I'm going to be going live with Stephen from Cider and Port. We're going to be taking a look at that kind of extra. I'm interested in talking about it. I was surprised that Stephen reached out to me, kind of tagged me in a comment. He's like, can I join you to go over this one? And I'm like, yeah, sure. All right, let's do it. Because for whatever reason, Darth Dawkins, no spoilers, but Darth Dawkins is being extra theatrical in it, and it's a little extra difficult to listen to. At least it was for me. So,
and just to make sure, that is 6 Eastern.
6 p.m. Eastern. Yep.
Yeah, that's where I got it wrong yesterday. I'm still. You went over the best part of the first video before I got there, so. I should have read what you wrote in Discord.
Let me read this. This is from Not Atheist. I listened to that conversation between Gary and the one person on Earth who claims to have been converted from atheism to Jesusism by Gary. The conversation was coincidentally just a couple weeks after he was being tore up by both Christians and atheists over being the atheist's most valuable tool in creating atheists. The guy sounds like Lee Strobel. I want to participate in a video breaking down their entire saga. A series we'll call Darth Brought Me to Jesus. Yeah, who's that? I can't remember who it is. Read my comment I just left a minute ago. Yes, okay, yeah. Let me know which ones you mean. I'm kind of curious about those ones. Maybe I missed those ones. But yeah, let me know. Not Atheist, send me. My email is pretty simple. It's just my username, Jefferson Spatchcock. No punctuation or anything. Jefferson Spatchcock, all one word, @gmail.com. Send me that and let me know. If you're not from the U.S., let me know. Well, even if you are from the U.S., let me know what region you're in, what time zone, and then we can maybe set something up. So yeah. Other than that, he had a British accent. You know what? I think I know who you guys are talking about. That could be. It's either Foxy or the other guy. But yeah, I think I know which one you might mean. So.
Who's Foxy?
So, if he had a British accent, I think he goes by not Foxy or not a fox, but he's got a British accent, and he's one of Darth Dawkins' kind of familiars. And I think it might have been a Skylar fiction video. It might have been one of the ones where Skylar's in there talking to him, where I think he says something like that. So, yeah, Alpha K91 saying it's not Foxy. Maybe he's not British. Maybe he's Australian. I'm not sure. But yeah, just let me know, Not Atheist, and we'll see what we can dig up and we'll go from there. So, but yeah, as far as I've got scheduled tomorrow at 6 p.m. and then I don't think I'll be doing anything Friday. I'm going to be really busy. Saturday I might go live with my brother to do something in the afternoon. So, but other than that, thanks everybody for showing up. Thanks for watching. Sorry to keep these as long as they are. I've been trying to keep these things under 2 hours, but
like and subscribe.
Yeah, like and subscribe or don't. So.
No, like and subscribe.
Okay.
Even if you don't want to, like and subscribe.
I'm less committed to that, but yeah, maybe just listen to Peter. Don't listen to me.
I'm the guest. I can make those statements.
I'm flaky. Yeah. All right. Good night, everybody.
Night, everyone.